Microphone check, mic check, microphone check, mic check one, mic. Sibilance, popping S's, sibilance. How's my sibilance? Right. Mic is in, sibilance good, mic check good. Yeah, okay, you can hear that on an iPhone. That's good. Again. Yeah, even the popped S's aren't bad. Okay. It's a good day. It's a good day to have a good day. Today is a great day to have a good day. Good day. A good day. Right, speaking of good days, not a great day for Betty yesterday. Great day at all. 3 minutes till we get to the main show. Super Kelly G says, I was shocked. I don't know why that Betty died. I was the exact same. Doing a live stream, ended a little early, gave a chance for some viewers to go over and check out the Hear Me Out stream. Decided to do a little grocery shopping after I checked out that stream for a bit, said hi to the fun people in chat. Get back from grocery shopping, and I've got 2 messages, A to B and LZB. Betty's dead. Betty is dead. It's not exactly what the message said, but as soon as I read it, I'm like, Betty's dead. Holy fuck. Thank you, Betty. That's a hell of a timing. Hell of a timing. Okay, let's just go through the elements of today's show. This is the breaking news screen. This is where I'll do my reads from. This is the full me screen. This shows off my mustache in all of its glory. The full me. This is the content watch screen. This is how we'll be watching content today. I do have some content set up for us. I have some letters to read. Letters from Prison, a book by Jennifer Furio. Reading some of that. I also have a screen for some love letters. These are love letters from Betty to Brad. They were found in a storage locker in 2000 and something. One of the letters is dated 2006, so they were together significantly after prison. For a bit of a throwback, I went back to the old look. So we're just here in the Dan D True Crime Attic. Got the dartboard behind that shoulder there, and got the walls closing in on me from the top, but that's fine. I'm not scared. I look scared? I'm not scared. Go back to the pre-show. I see I have just 1 minute left after dicking around. Claire asks if I'm clairvoyant because of the timing of the Betty Broderick thing. What I'm realizing is if I do have a gift for putting people that have life sentences in prison, if I have a gift for saving the taxpayers some money, I'm going to have to be more selective in the archived cases that I cover, because I think there's something to be said for looking for people who've maybe been in prison for 50 years and are just hanging on, that we'd be better off if they weren't. So maybe I'll do a little retrospective on them and see if that's enough to have them kick the old bucket in prison on natural causes and finish off some of these sentences. In any case, the ticker says it's time to switch, so we'll switch to the breaking news screen. I will open up my script and we will start the show. A Dan D True Crime News Update. Beep, deep, 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 deep. Today we mark the closing chapter of one of the most polarizing criminal cases in California history. Betty Broderick, the former socialite who became a household name after the 1989 double homicide of her ex-husband and his new ex-wife, died in prison on May 8th, 2026. She was 78 years old. Found dead of natural causes, Broderick spent her final 34 years behind bars at the California Institution for Women. While many remember her as a cold-blooded killer, her story remains a haunting symbol of a marriage gone wrong that forever changed how the public views the psychological toll of high-conflict divorce. Now I'll go into a bit of a northeastern accent. It was the case that gripped the nation, and more recently the viewers of Dundee True Crime. It began in the early morning hours of November 9th, 1989, when Betty used a stolen key to enter the home of her ex-husband, who shared it with his new wife. She fired 5 shots into the sleeping couple's bedroom, killing them both, and after a high-profile first trial ended in a hung jury, a second jury in 1991 neglected her claims of psychological abuse, instead convicting her on 2 counts of second-degree murder. Back to you, Dan. During her 3 decades behind bars at the California Institution for Women, Broderick became a polarizing symbol of divorce reform and the scorned woman narrative. Supporters saw her as a victim of the legal system that failed to protect spouses who sacrificed careers for their parents' professional rise, parents' partners. Supporters saw her as a victim of a legal third time lucky. Supporters saw her as a victim of a legal system that had failed to protect spouses who sacrificed careers for their partner's professional rise. In the decades since her conviction, family law has seen significant evolution, with modern courts now placing greater emphasis on recognizing non-monetary contributions and the impacts of financial and emotional coercion. Betty Broderick is survived by 4 children who remain bitterly divided on her incarceration at the time of her last parole hearing. Betty Broderick, dead at the age of 78. Right. Okay, that's the intro. That is the intro, and if you are here watching, you're probably well aware of what's happened. If you're not, little ticker at the top will tell you if you're joining late. Yeah, what a wild turn of events, you know. Spend a whole month covering a 35-year-old trial of somebody who's, you keep saying, is going to be in prison until she's 84, and then days after, she's dead. Pretty wild, wacky, wild stuff. Dabs for dummies. The news is Betty Broderick died in prison. Died of natural causes at the age of 78 years old. And what are we going to start with today? You know what? I think we'll start with a little bit of content, because this particular channel, quite interesting here, had just clips from the first trial, which we don't have any YouTube footage of anyway. So it's a bunch of stuff I haven't seen before. The way this is framed is it's really raw. There's parts where there's no audio, it doesn't come in right away and that sort of thing. So bear with it, but it's only 2 or 3 minutes, and I will get the get a little information about the page doing this as well. Let's see. Carol DeRanch, she's got 37,000 subscribers. This particular video only has 1.8 thousand views, 1.8 thousand, 1,800 views. Yeah, we will give it a like and we will watch it. Let's see. Like I said, the audio cuts in and out, but
I'm going to ask that there be a motion set so that I can request the court.
It is a little quieter than the other audio I've used. I'm going to go into my capture and bump it. Bump it up. A boost.
Either to dismiss the first-degree murder, or to have the jury reconvened, or whatever other equitable and adequate remedies there are at law.
was 12 people trying as hard as they could. A couple of people didn't see it the way the rest of them did, but they had their beliefs and we had ours. We're being blamed for being indecisive. We've been accused of not having any guts to make a decision. And I feel bad that we couldn't come to a decision, but everybody tried as hard as they could to come to a decision. It just didn't happen.
It's like...
So these are people from the original jury that was hung apologizing for the fact that they couldn't come up with a decision.
You failed to do something that's very important, and try as you might, you could not accomplish the task, and it just tore me up.
I'm really frustrated at this point. I mean, I felt there was enough evidence for a verdict.
Whether or not she had probable cause.
Okay, these can't all be jurors, maybe, but crazy to get all the jurors. I think a lot of, maybe, it feels like some of these are man on the street type interviews. But
2 people are dead, and I think they should have been able to reach some.
They pretty much thought that she was provoked.
There were times when she was in the heat of passion, and I think a lot of us thought this was not one of those times, and some people thought it was one of the times.
And to try to get movement, we was willing to go to second degree in hopes that we could get those that were asking for manslaughter to move up, but didn't work.
I agree.
Bail is allowed with first-degree murder counts, and I think that it would be appropriate. Now, the bail might be higher than it would be otherwise, but I think bail is appropriate in this case.
is that it? I think there's one more audio section. Look at Carrie Wells. Look how much she aged after that first trial, because this is only a year before. And again, the audio was missing in the original.
Some kind of love, some kind of tenderness for her and the children.
And in fact, when the affair...
Okay, we do have some incoming reports or updates on cause of death. LZB reports that Google says Betty died at an outside facility due to an infection as a symptom of a broken rib she suffered from a fall in prison. 3 of 4 children were with her. 1 was on FaceTime.
is finally divulged, what does he do? Does he go and say, yes, I did something bad. I broke a confidence. This is something that we don't do to people that we love and people that we're committed to. Did he do that? No. He said, you're nuts. You need to be committed.
And this is just about the end of this first video. I think I have one other.
How she did it.
Oh no, the next 2 are going to be the parole hearings.
Emotions that were around.
I think we'll take a pause before we watch those because we have seen them before as part of the Betty Broderick chat.
Meditating and deliberating, making deliberate choices.
So that's it. That's it from that particular video. I think the parole hearings are quite interesting too, so I have both of those queued up. Do want to just take a second to check in with the chat, see how everyone's doing. See, we've got a big crowd here. There's maybe some people who didn't check out the Betty Broderick Marathon that are here because of the breaking news. So welcome. This is your first time to Dandy True Crime. I have a subscriber. You need to subscribe to chat, but you only need to subscribe for 1 minute. So it's just to keep out the people who are scrolling to cause problems. If you're not causing problems, become a subscriber. Join the chat. We have a very friendly chat here. VC Wants a Pony said hi to everyone. Gen X Gamer Girl has joined the chat. I don't think a murderer should have been given the luxury of having their kids with them in prison when they pass. Certainly her victims did not get that. Yeah, interesting. We will look, that's Gen X Gamer Girl's comment. It's possible that it was through the regular visitation process, and there may be compassionate grounds for end of life for if there's somebody in the hospital that's imminent death if the doctor says something like that. I suppose there's some sort of carve out for that. Probably not in Florida or Texas, but places like California, I could see them doing that. Mandy 13 says, it's my opinion that Betty became a nightmare to be married to and live with. Dan stayed until he just couldn't take it anymore. Then he found real love. LCB sent out a free membership to Dan D True Crime. Congratulations to Mish B. Free membership, courtesy of LCB. Thank you very much. Pauline Itchy. Oh, I know how to pronounce this one. It took me a while before. Pauline from Itchy Withers Horse Rescue says, hey all. Itchy Withers Horse Rescue. Yes, I've got that right. All right, let's watch these parole hearings. There's two of them. The first is Betty explaining why she shouldn't be in jail, really. And then it's followed up by a video that is quite harrowing from all of the family members impacted by Betty's actions.
The voices in my head to completely take over. I heard all the past voices of all the bad things from my parents and my kids and Dan and everybody else. And I'm this horrible, awful, worthless failure of a human being. And then I allowed the stress of losing my house and going to jail and not having a home to put the kids. Because if he throws me in jail again, I lose my house. And I was just afraid of...
Mrs. Broderick, stop right there.
Yeah. Get your priorities sorted. A kitten pusher makes a great point. The luxury of being with your parent at their death is as much for the adult children. In fact, it is more for them. That makes a lot of sense. So it's not compassion for the murderer, although, it is, but the motivation for it very much would be the compassion for the children that, even in the Sarah Boone case, you'd think that if the child is interested in being there when that moment comes, and I'll be online for it. God knows I'm going to find a way to survive to report on Sarah's eventual completion of her sentence, but I'm not buying it. Says she was a nut job. Welcome to the chat. I'm not buying it. Good to see you. Deborah Rockhill says, I wonder if she was haunted by what she did. It doesn't appear so in these parole hearings. This was either 2010 or 2017. It's not entirely clear. You can kind of guess from the infrastructure, the computers behind. It looks like I'm guessing this is the 2017 hearing because of the flat screen monitors, but they had flat screens in 2010. They were just more expensive. There's a lot of paper too, so maybe it is still 2010. Regardless, let's hear Betty get chastised for how she's describing the crime rather than her remorse.
For a minute, okay? You're worried about your husband putting you in jail again. Yet, you consciously take the gun that you purchased in March, you go to the house, which you got a key to get in, okay? It's not like you knocked on the door and rang the doorbell here, okay? And said, hello, hey, can we chat? You didn't do that. You went in the back door, you knew the house well, you went to the bedroom, it's 5:30 in the morning, and you killed 2 people.
I went to Dan's house to ask him to just give me the kids and leave me the hell alone. This is too many years of this ongoing stuff. And I never got to ask him or say anything. Linda came at me, and the gun went off over and across the bed, and the physical evidence proves that. And I didn't think of anything. I wasn't thinking.
I don't want, we're not going to,
we're
not here to retry you, okay? But the physical evidence doesn't show that, and you're here on a murder second.
I know.
Okay? You got convicted of this crime, all right? The evidence would show that a different thing happened here. My question is, you wrote a suicide note. How come you didn't commit suicide?
How
come you didn't do it after you killed your husband,
I didn't have
your
any
ex-husband?
bullets. I didn't have any bullets left. I was just startled. It wasn't, I don't even remember pulling the trigger even once. I was just startled.
Miss Broderick, you went to that home with a gun. You went to that home with a loaded gun. You went to that home uninvited at 5:30 in the morning when most people are in bed asleep. okay? So you can see where the commissioner, can you understand where she's coming from? She lunged at you. Excuse me, you weren't even supposed to be there. You're in there with a gun. So there was some intent to go there to do something more than just chit-chat.
I was obviously not thinking straight or thinking clearly at all, and I thought if I had the gun, I could make them listen to me.
You told me earlier you don't even remember pulling the phone from the wall.
I don't remember pulling the phone, but Dan spoke to me. Dan spoke to me without any pain or any flinching or anything. Dan said, okay, you got me, like that.
This is bizarre.
And I had no bullets left or anything. I just ran out of the room. But that's why I didn't know he was hit or anything was wrong with him. And I thought he was chasing me. And I was running away from Dan. He spoke to me absolutely clearly with no pain. I had no idea he was hit. I thought he was chasing me.
That's the most bizarre part of, like, after all of the testimony, to hear this in the parole hearing, it's so Sarah, like, to be arguing something that has absolutely no bearing on what they're there for. If she could even possibly, convince somebody that she really believed that Dan wasn't hurt after firing 5 shots at point blank range from the doorway, to be harping on it this long, like, people would have had to tell you know what, it's pretty unreasonable that that's what you're hanging on to. But, this whole, like, that's the way, when you're playing guns as kids, I remember, like, Cops and Robbers, you got me, is how somebody would say it. That's not how somebody would say it if their wife was killed in front of them and, they're crawling towards the phone. Ha, got me this time, Betty. You're a real minx, you.
He spoke to me clearly, plainly. I have great remorse and feel terrible for all the needless.
Oh, that sounded scripted, right?
I have great remorse and feel terrible for all the needless.
I think she's reading that as opposed, you can't see her face, but she's definitely looking down, as opposed to here, hands up, making eye contact with the guy who's not wanting to match that eye contact, like disgusted by the excuses.
Clearly, plainly. I have great remorse and feel terrible for all the needless, senseless pain and suffering I've caused so many. I took the lives of 2 wonderful people who were loved by many. For that I will be forever sorry. That was never my intention. If staying in prison longer would change something or bring them back, I would do that. But that would accomplish nothing. I can never undo or repair the damage I have done in the past. My only hope is to go forward in peace and love and try to heal this family.
My name is Dan.
Okay, so this is now the victim impact statements at the same parole hearing. We'll get to that just a second. Dabs for Dummies says it's just crazy how she died right after our marathon. You know what's even crazier? The next marathon I have planned is Sarah Boone. So if I have a Midas touch, as it were, to help these prisoners with life sentences complete their sentences more expeditiously, hopefully, as we cover the Sarah Boone case, she decides to also join Betty. Well, so my marathon, it's not going to be an everyday marathon like this one, but Bernice Conklin, who is a new member from the Betty Broderick marathon, asked about the Sarah Boone case, and I realized I really should have an archive of my coverage of the Sarah Boone case on my channel if I'm going to claim to be a newly crowned trial expert with Afroman and Betty Broderick. It seems crazy that I wouldn't have coverage of the Sarah Boone case. So mornings on Fridays, we're just going to go through Sarah Boone. It's only 5 days, 8 hours a day of testimony, so we might do 2 hours a day, plus the pretrial hearings, so probably a good 4 months of mornings. So we'll be doing that, and if she happens to expire because of our coverage, not my fault. Not my fault. She just floated up the damn stairs. Had nothing to do with me.
Broderick, B-R-O-D-E-R-I-C-K. I'm the son of the victims and Betty. It saddens me to say this, but I don't think my mother is a stable and healthy person.
And just in case you missed that on the introductions, this is Dan Broderick. This is her oldest son, the third oldest child, but oldest of the two sons.
I don't think she has been for decades. I don't think she's remorseful, insightful to what she's done. She has never expressed wanting forgiveness from us, nor giving forgiveness to my dad and Linda. She has never apologized until today for what she has done, and has never acknowledged the pain and suffering for her actions. In 20 years since the incident, she hasn't done much that I'm aware of for redemption or correcting her wrongs.
My name is Kim Piggins, P-I-G-G-I-N-S, and I'm the oldest child of Dan and Betty Broderick. I was 19 years old when my dad and Linda died. My youngest sibling was a mere 10. It was at that moment that the four of us became orphans. Not only did my mother's actions take our father from us, but it took her away from us as well.
That's so key to, like, instant orphans. Like, you go from, you know, in the eyes of a lot of people, like, you guys are lucky. You guys have so much. Oh, your dad's rich. Oh, you know, there's so much envy that could have been directed towards these kids coming from well-to-do parents, and then just to have it all taken away and just like that.
Orphans. Not only did my mother's actions take our father from us, but it took her away from us as well. I just always hoped that one day she would come around and realize what she had done. Yet she still not once, until today, has taken responsibility for her actions or expressed any remorse for the damage she's caused. She has continuously maintained that she was the victim in all this, and had no choice but to act as she did. She defends her behavior to this day and makes justifications that are irrational and without factual basis. The truth of the matter is that my parents had a horrible divorce, and they treated each other very poorly. But that often happens at the dissolution of a marriage. Nothing that transpired between them was grounds for murder, or frankly, any of the violent actions that my mother took towards my dad and Linda in the years prior to their deaths.
I am the daughter of Dan and Betty Broderick. I have come here today in support of my mother's release. I'm not trying to deny the heartbreaking loss my family has.
This would be Lee Broderick if she's supporting her mother's release. Lee Broderick, if you remember from the testimony, testified on camera for the first half of her testimony, and then was able to negotiate being off camera due to feeling uncomfortable with the camera looking at her when she gave questions. Judge Thomas Whelan deferred to that concern, saying that the interest of justice was more important than the interest of broadcasting to the public. That said, we haven't seen that sort of ruling continue in later cases, so that very well may have been a ruling that applied to this early case, and a precedent that was overturned by the lawyers for Court TV, who were more prepared by the Menendez trial.
Suffered through my mother's crimes. I love my father, and I want to honor his memory.
I'm going to bring up, Mandy brings up the positional asphyxiation has got to be the worst way to die. He suffered while he pled for his life. Sarah should be on death row. Hide and seek I shall. That's a great reminder about the horror of Betty's crime. It's just how slow and gradual, and that George would have had enough time to realize what was happening and still not do anything about it, and just have those moments of, God, like everything from pure terror to the emotional fallout from having to reconcile your own imminent death. Devastating. And to think that she can't, like, even for a minute, like, you know, in her interrogation, watching the video in the trial, like, she couldn't muster even the level of emotion I get just talking about it, and I'm 4,000 miles away, figuring out how a one-handed can opener worked at the time that Betty was doing her crimes. I'm gonna have to tap my eyes. They got a little moist there.
My life has been very difficult trying to get by with this tragedy and the lack of my parents. My mother has been a good prisoner for the last 20 years, as all of her prison records will show. She has expressed remorse, and I feel that she should have a chance to live her older years outside of the prison walls.
I'm RHETT Broderick, son of, do I have to spell it? BRODERICK, the son of Dan and Betty Broderick. I too support my mother's release. I have spent 2/3 of my life.
So this would be RHETT Broderick, who's provided the statement that clarified the information regarding Betty's death and that it happened outside the facility in a medical facility due to a fall, complications related to the fall, and a broken rib. 78 years old, Betty Broderick is dead.
Without my parents. I was very young when my mom was a broken woman. She was consumed by anger and grief, and she was so depressed.
Great point. I'm not buying it. Says a good prisoner. That's an oxymoron if I've ever heard one. And if you like those kind of oxymorons, definitely stick around, because our Sarah Boone coverage, our Sarah Boone, I believe she used the term, I'm a role model prisoner. Not a model prisoner, which is, a thing. If you're a model prisoner, you get all the benefits of being a model prisoner. But a role model prisoner? Yeah. Good luck, Sarah. Like, I want to be like her when I grow up and go to jail. Prison. Felons go to prison. People who deserve to be there.
And just not the woman that she is today. I'm very confident that my mom would succeed outside of prison. I think that the psychological evaluation is accurate. I do not think she's a risk to society. I think she'd be a very contributing member of society, and I think that...
Wow. Victoria Carmen has just tuned in. Storm caused her to lose power and internet since last night. Is this breaking news then, Victoria? Betty Broderick, dead at the age of 78 years old. Immediately after the Dan D trial coverage.
The longer she stays in prison, the harder that transition will be.
Yeah. My name is Larry Broderick. Dan Broderick was my brother. I am saddened that I will never share again memories of a lifetime with Dan.
Larry Broderick is complicated testimony, because as the brother, like, I only have a brother as a sibling, and I don't know that I can feel the bond with his brother in his victim impact statement. There's also a lot of details about Larry's financial chicanery that causes me to see him as a less sympathetic figure than the children. But it's still the brother to brother loss is something I can empathize with.
I am deeply saddened.
Not that I've lost my brother, but I can definitely imagine the pain that would go with that. You're still with me, Dave, don't worry.
We have lost the last 20 years with Dan and Linda and all of our future together. I am saddened by the devastation visited on Dan's children by this woman's outrageous acts. The overwhelming emotion I feel is rage. I have become a bitter, angry person over the years. And in order to more fully understand what I am about to say, it is important, I believe, for you to know that I believe that the criminal sitting before you is a psychopath. I am enraged that this self-centered, lying psychopath executed Dan and Linda. I am enraged by what this murderer did to my mother and father.
I am Roger Kolkena, Kolkena, brother of Linda Broderick.
And this is a sibling relationship that is, I think, more purely devastating to listen to. The effect on the Kolkena family is almost an afterthought in the way of the trial coverage is presented, but they have to be every bit as broken up over the loss of their sister, their daughter, and yeah, this I think is probably the most powerful testimony that we listened to during the whole marathon regarding Linda Kolkena.
In my view, the most important question before the panel is, if freed, can Betty Broderick do it again? If someone were to cause her to feel enraged, or if she felt compelled to settle an old score, might Betty Broderick kill again? I don't know. The doctors don't know. No one can know. It is my heartfelt conviction that for the safety and well-being of the Broderick family, the KOLKENA family, and the community, Betty Broderick should remain confined for the rest of her days.
And that's a good point that he asked there too, is if she got out, would she do it again? And it's not like a guy that has, a hair trigger and violent tendencies where you're like, yeah, it'll happen again. He'll get pissed off and, he's done it before, he'll do it again. With Betty, there's every chance she could have been released 30 years ago and never hurt another person. But there's also every chance that someone else would piss her off and someone else would create a situation where she felt wronged. If she's already done this as a response to it and didn't feel any remorse, how can you as a parole board feel confident in putting her out in society, knowing that there'll be George Benson on the parole board and, Susie Watkins on the parole board let her go, and then she freaked out and killed the tanning salon manager, or, who knows? But yeah, it's not a way to present yourself anyway.
Your heart is still bitter. You're still angry. You're showing no significant progress in evolving as a person past this situation. And I think what was even more overwhelming than just us talking about it was your own kids, who you talk to all the time, and they're saying, Mom, you got to move on. You're still there. You're still back 20 years ago.
Really wish we had that whole hearing. Really wish we did. So now all I have queued up here is just days of her testimony. So we're not going to spend the hours of watching it, but whenever I run out of things to watch, we will pop back into the coverage. Let me do the scripted read. No, we'll go to the letter page. Actually, let's just go full me. Let's go full me for now. And let's have a bit of a... we've got a couple ways we can go. We can read the Letters from Prison. Letters from Prison is a book by the author Jennifer Furio. Nope, that's it. It is it's a full-length novel, but there's only 7 or 8 pages devoted to Betty. So I feel like I could read the Betty portion of it and point you in the direction of the novel if you're interested in other letters from criminals, so we can do that. The other ones that I have available are the love letters that got pulled out of the locker. These are love letters between, they're all from Betty to Brad Wright. I guess Brad was putting them in a box and then put that box in a storage locker and then did not pay for the storage locker. So then Dave Hester bought it and said, yep. Ended up with the letters, sold them off, and they became public domain. So we've got those that we can read. And what else do I have on this docket? Well, I know what we'll do. Go to the content watch, and I'll set up a poll for what you guys want to do next. We'll just let Betty tell her story here for a few seconds. Or minutes even. Maybe even minutes we'll give you, Betty. This is when she initially took the stand, so this is the defense case.
And what did you shoot at that time?
22 rifles.
This is Betty talking about how she used to shoot rifles as a teenager back in church camp. Just 22 rifles, and I'm not an expert. I just totally know about shooting and have since a young age. Weird defense to start with, but that's how she started her defense.
Shot bolt action rifles.
Was that with your whole family? I mean, was that with the whole class, individual lessons?
It was a group of teenagers, young teenagers.
My brother was in it.
Did you work during the time that you were in high school and college?
Yes.
And what kind of jobs did you do?
I had 3 basic categories of jobs. I had fashion jobs, I had children jobs, and I had hostessing jobs.
Did you do, was there any retail work that you did with the fashion jobs?
Yes.
Excuse me, this is talking about high school. I object to
Sustained. Learn something else.
Did you, at some point, meet somebody by the name of Dan Broderick?
Yes, when I just started college.
And how did you come to meet Dan Broderick?
I went out to Notre Dame in South Bend, Indiana for a football weekend.
And was that something that was planned that you were going to meet him? Accident?
No, I didn't know I was going to meet him. He was sitting across from me at the table at a party, and he asked to borrow a pen, and I had a pen, so I lent him my pen.
And what happened?
He wrote on the tablecloth, I found out was his name, and it said Daniel Thomas Broderick III, M.D.A., and the A was in parentheses. And so I asked him, I said, what's that? What is that? And he said, oh, I just got into medical school, so it's Daniel Thomas Broderick
50-50.
M.D. almost. It was funny.
And how did you find him to be at that time?
A nice person. It was a very, very loud, very rowdy party. It was the senior class of Notre Dame, and Jerry Lee Lewis himself was right to the right, and it was really noisy.
The scratchings in the original video, Disney Mom asks, hold on, did she say she shot rifles at church camp? I went to church camp, and we had campfires and sang Bible songs. What campfires did Betty go to? Or what campgrounds did Betty go to? Yikes. Yeah. I would imagine, so where did Betty grow up? She grew up in Boston, so this is a northeastern. It's not like it was some backwoods, like, I don't know, Louisiana swamp camp or something like that, where all there is to do is shoot cans and critters. Yeah. I don't know. I remember doing archery at a church camp. I went to church camp even though I wasn't terribly religious, and the reason was that the church camps would subsidize the cost of church. So kids with secular households that were in a lower income bracket could afford to send their kids for a week of camp. And if it meant, you woke up and did a little Bible study and said grace before your meals, so be it. Good exposure, I think. I think kids that grow up in a non-religious household should have exposure to the generalities of religion anyway and choose if it's right for them.
Really crowded, and it was hard to have any kind of a conversation at all.
Okay. Now, did you make arrangements at that time to meet Mr. Broderick sometime in the future?
Not the night I met him. The rest of the weekend. That was Friday night of the weekend.
Her baby's mom. At the time she unalived them, she was in a relationship with another man. She had choices to make. She could have moved on. She was angry. Yes, that other man is Brad Wright, and that is who the love letters are to that I'll be reading. The love letters were written between 2003 and 2006. So at that point, Betty would have been in prison almost 15 years, up to 15 years on some of them. So Brad stayed in touch. You got to give Brad credit. He's there longer than a lot of the flying monkeys assisting Sarah Boone. That's for sure. And Candace brings up, I was about to say archery at camp. Why not firearms? It is a natural extension. It's just a projectile weapon, just projected with a lot more velocity and force. But it's not that far. What was? Oh God, there's a church song that just came. Praise God and pass the ammunition. Is that a real song? Praise the Lord and pass the ammunition. I know there's a song like that. At least one of you guys know it. We're gonna move forward a little bit into Betty's testimony.
After he got a regular job, I kind of expected him to get involved and be home on weekends and be home at night and to have a little more time for us. And he didn't have very much time for us.
Now, during the time that
Come on, Jack.
talk about
Get it together.
counseling, marriage, or anything else, any other kind of counseling during that time?
We participated.
Yes, definitely a 22. Candace says it was probably a 22. Betty makes the point, it's just a 22. It's a 22 rifle. And I guess if you're a gun person, that's like almost not a gun. It's so small. But to me, if somebody came up to you with a 22, I would... just a 22. Like a BB gun. It's not even going to break the skin.
In a marriage encounter through the Catholic Church, which is a weekend you go away and discuss the future of your marriage. And
Did you have any discussions about what you might do or if things didn't work out?
yes, I felt pretty isolated out in California. I really liked it, but Dan was never home, and I didn't have any relatives here at all, and neither did he. And I was raised in a very big, very close family. My mother's own.
Stand.
Praise the Lord and Pass the Ammunition is a patriotic song written by Frank Lesser in 1942, shortly after the attack in Pearl Harbor. I have to find these lyrics, and we'll just take a quick break while I read the lyrics to Praise the Lord and Pass the Ammunition. Praise the Lord and pass the ammunition, praise the Lord and pass the ammunition, praise the Lord and pass the ammunition, and we'll all stay free. Praise the Lord and swing into position, can't afford to be a politician. Praise the Lord, we're all between perdition and the deep blue sea. Yes, the sky pilot said it, you gotta give him credit, for a son of a gunner was he. Shouting, praise the Lord, we're on a mighty mission, all aboard, we ain't a-goin' fishing. Praise the Lord and pass the ammunition, and we'll all stay free. This seems like it should be said with a southern accent. Praise the Lord, okay, yeah. There's a brackets part, but I can't sing the brackets. Just imagine after the singing part, someone repeating it. Praise the Lord and pass the ammunition. Praise the Lord and pass the ammunition. Praise the Lord and pass the ammunition, and we'll all stay free. Well, okay. That was it. That was Praise the Lord and Pass the Ammunition, a patriotic song written in the wake of the attack at Pearl Harbor in 1942. I bet that was sung at the church that Betty was staying at. Listen to a little bit more of her testimony before we choose which of the letters to read first. Testimony is on this page, and let's skip ahead here.
A little shorter, so I let my hair grow longer, and I just tried to look as much as I could like I used to look when I was 19.
Yeah. Did the subject of...
That was where it brought in... So first, Betty was talking about how she was just trying to make herself look good like she did at 19 in order to allay the affair or make herself more desirable. Didn't know it at the time that she was testifying here, but the last 7 witnesses for Betty would be her friends talking about how fat she got and how ugly she was, and, you know, she used to be beautiful, but now look at her. I still see a very attractive woman sitting here on trial, but that was a big part of the case towards the end, was how Betty had let herself go. She was gorgeous, and now she's just a sack of potatoes you see sit beside Mr. Early.
More babies ever come up?
Yes, I had my tubes tied with the birth of RHETT in 1979 because I had to do that if I wanted to get my leg operated on. You're after you have the vascular surgery in your leg, you're not really supposed to get pregnant ever again. But I had my tubes tied, and so I thought if it would make Dan feel younger that he had young children or had babies.
Yeah, Disney Mom, my southern accent is all over the place. It's certainly not anything I know from knowing anyone, so if I'm copying somebody that said something in a Southern accent, I can sometimes mimic it okay. And if I've listened to a lot of it, I do better. But yeah, that wasn't great. I agree. But yeah, just yesterday, I don't know what I was saying. I was saying something, and one of my viewers that's from Mississippi, Alabama, loved the Southern accent. But I think I was pulling a James Owens. I have to think of something James said. But Your Honor, we're just trying our best, Your Honor. Margaret's back at the office in Pensacola. She ain't helping. Just doing the best I can.
That I would get that operation reversed and have more children. Because I was asking, like what does she have that we don't have together? I mean, why would you be interested in Linda Kolkena? I don't understand.
Did you?
Because she was young and hot. It's a story as old as time.
See any doctors about your physical condition, having children?
About getting the tube tied reversed, yes. Dr. Villanueva is a specialist in fertility.
And did both you and Dan go to see him?
50-50
Yes.
still.
Now, during this period of time that was going on, were you still asking Dan about Linda?
Yes.
And what was he telling you?
Oh, the foghorn leghorn, I'll tell you, chicken hawk is, you're a chicken hawk, and I'm a rooster. So you better go along there now, chicken hawk, and just get on getting on.
Objection, asked and answered.
Stand.
Well, did you,
My best accent, and LCB says her family's from Texas, so when she goes to visit them, she always comes back with an accent. Unintentional. Yeah, you don't mess with Texas. No, you go there, you come back talking like them. That's how it goes. My accent, when I hung out with some people from Quebec, I did a work trip where I was rooming with a native French language speaker, had recently learned English, but spoke without plural, so everything, hey, we're going to go put on our shoe and our sock and then we go out to the store, eh? So I remember by the end of that, I had a French accent that was spot on. I just couldn't speak very much French, if any.
did you ever feel that you were imagining things because of what Dan told you? I mean, were there times where you felt that you were crazy or imagining things?
There were times when I doubted.
Her baby's mom, I didn't even notice. There must have been something while I was otherwise engaged, but I see you've turned to green, so thank you for becoming a member of Dan D True Crime. I don't know if that just happened now but thank you. Thank you to everyone who's a member of Dan D True Crime. And thank you to everyone who's not a member. There's a lot of shout outs to members that you see on the other channels, and sometimes they just forget the people who are subscribing and watching. You're just as important. Memberships are fantastic. It's a great way to let a creator know that you're there for them and you want them to invest in themselves and keep creating content. But realistically, especially for what I'm trying to do, the more people that watch, the more people that are interested, that's how I'm going to become successful. And my heart, thank you. Thank you, everyone who watches Dan D True Crime and enjoys what I'm doing.
Feelings and impressions of what I thought was true, and he was telling me that was not true, and so I felt imbalanced because what I felt and saw and suspected and all the clues were pointing one way, and he's telling me, black is white and white is black, and I'm feeling a little off balance. That
it was way before Michael Jackson came up with the song with those exact lyrics. Tell me that I'm black and white.
Felt imbalanced because what I felt and saw and suspected and all the clues were pointing one way, and he's telling me, black is white and white is black, and I'm feeling a little off balance. That I've never felt like that before.
Did you do anything? Did you go anywhere at that time? Well, first of all, did you do anything to yourself physically?
Set up the first
at any
reading.
period of time in 1983?
Well, the October 1st deadline came and went. And
Okay, we're still at 50-50. We're going to go in and just read a little bit of the love letters, because these I have to read on screen. Let me pull up the video. Love letters. There we go. Oh, is the love letters, okay. Oh, okay, I see what I've done. I've compiled all the love letters into a slideshow because they're too difficult for me to read at screen resolution. So I will bring up one letter at a time and then read it in the background at a higher resolution. This first letter says, "Dear Brad, thank you so much for sending my money. If I had a penny for every time I think of you, I'd be a millionaire many times over. Hope you are as happy and that your life is going as planned. Love always, Betty." Aww. You know what's interesting about this one? So that one, love always, Betty. The date is 2006. The rest of these letters say something besides Betty after love. We'll see if she graduated towards using her name or moved. Okay, so this one is August 21st, 2006. Second letter in the love letter series. Boom. Well, okay. Our mail is, what is that? It's tough because this is in cursive and it's a photograph of the letter. Mail is, our mail is unintelligible and slow. Please send my July money ASAP. I'm out of everything. Okay, let's just read that in a Sarah Boone. Looks like INITIE. Our mail is... no, I don't know what that word is. Maybe sweet. No, it's not sweet because there's an E at the end. Well, I'm just going to read it as, our mail is slow. Please send my July money ASAP. I'm out of everything. I'd love to hear anything from you. You're always in my thoughts. Love, Betty. Love, the bear. XOX. Thank you from the bottom of my little heart. That's funny that the card says thank you because she doesn't. All right, that's Betty's second letter. This one is from Valentine's Day, 2006. Valentine's Day, 2006. We'll save some letters too. I think this will be the last one I read of the love letters because the letters from prison is significantly longer. Hi, honey. Remember my beautiful roses? And all my beautiful crystal vases for them? Miss you and all that. Love me. XOX. Love me. Love me. What a crazy way to sign a letter. Like I get, love from me, but just love me. That's, I don't know. If you are worried that people are calling you a narcissist and saying that, you're all about yourself and, have problems empathizing with the world, I would not sign my correspondence. Love me. But anyway, that's what it says. If you zoom in at the bottom, that's it. The next letter is from 2013. We'll save this one for when we come back to the letters. I will give a bit of a spoiler. The word please and money are both in there. There's this card. Also love me. This one's fun. And then this one is so... Oh, I'm scrolling through like you guys can see. You guys can't see what I'm scrolling through. In any case, we're going to move on from that. And we're going to move... What you see on screen there, that's not from the book. That's how hard it is to read those parts of the letter. So I stayed up till 3 in the morning transcribing those. I just lost my ring light. Okay, oopsie. Get back up here. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Technical difficulties. Okay. Do 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 do. I might have fried it. I think I fried the light. Nope, never mind. Passes me by. Okay, Girl from Ipanema is over. We will get into the book. Now, this book is from Jennifer Furio, and if you're just joining us, Betty Broderick, dead, age 78. Dead of natural causes, 78. Letters from prison. This is a journalist who, maybe we'll go to... No, I don't want to scroll too much because that's hard on the eyes when you're watching. This is a journalist who made a book from contacting woman killers and basically understanding the psychology because they're so different from most of the male killers. So we'll just start from reading her book. I'll make sure that it's queued up. Yeah, you guys can see it, so people at home can see it. You can see me just fine. Well, hold on. Let me just turn off the light. That doesn't do very much, does it? Huh. I had the impression that this light would make me better looking. I look almost identical with the light off. Did I just be blaring this right in my eyes just to smooth it out my cheeks? They are pretty smooth cheeks. Probably light up my eyes a bit too, right? Light stays on. Light stays on. Nana of 4? Bridget Gentile? Brigid Gentile. Okay, I thought it was Bridget. Brigid Gentile. Erratic, I think she was writing. That is very well. Our mail is erratic. Thank you. Brigid, you are moving up to mod. First time I've seen you in the chat. Apologies to other people who waited a lot longer to get a mod, but that was a timely comment there, Brigid. Welcome to everyone who is here in the chat. Welcome to all the newest members, and welcome to all the oldest members and everyone in between. Let's have a little read from Jennifer Furio's book, first discussing why she decided to write to Betty. Well, you know what? Before I do this, I'm just going to pause. I'm going to blow my nose and just reset just a second here. Ah, fantastic. I feel less phlegmatic already. Okay, we are ready. The lighting is harsh. Maybe it's too harsh, so maybe let me soften it. There. That softens the light. Maybe that's what I need. Maybe I only need the bright light if I'm trying to, do eyeliner and stuff like that. Okay, I've gone to a softer light. Let me know if that works for you. It works for me. Definitely. Hey, that's not bad at all. All right, let's read without bright light in my face. Probably the most talked about, most controversial female murderer in recent history is Betty Broderick. Her life has been played out on television and in best-selling books. Betty's crime is, in many ways, surprisingly simple. When her husband Dan left her to marry a younger woman, ending their 20-year marriage, Betty retaliated by shooting Dan and his new wife in their sleep at their San Diego, California home. In the wake of the murders, one question has lingered. Did Betty Broderick act in a single moment of panic, or out of scornful, premeditated revenge? This infamous debate, raging for over a decade, 3 decades now, so this was probably written around 2000. Raging for over a decade has garnered the attention of judicial reform activists and feminists who assert that Betty had a horrific but momentary response to years of Dan's mental abuse. On the other side, prosecutors and their supporters argue that Betty Broderick was a sociopath, capable of murdering anyone who stood in the way of the lifestyle she had worked so arduously. Whatever the interpretation, the story began years before with a mutual love. Oh, this is great. I remember this now. Victoria Carmen, I like your face today. That is an awesome that is a great compliment. I almost want to say that to people just as a greeting. Hey, how you doing? I like your face today. Hey, Scott, fuck you. I like your face today. Yesterday, thumbs down. Today, not bad. That's I love it. All right. One thing to know about this, it's a little bit more sympathetic to Betty than a lot of documented writings. This may be appropriate on the day of her death if we're going to give any grace to Betty at all. Today is as good a day as any, so just know that going in, that this is a little bit more backgrounder. And also, we know from people who try and contact people who are in prison, you kind of got to be a little deferential. You got to, grease the wheels a little bit to get them writing you. That said, this writer did not put any money on Betty's canteen. This writer did not buy any gifts for Betty's children. And this writer did not, didn't charge people $3 a month to read these letters. She compiled them in a academic journal that is available on academia.edu and can be freely read by anyone who is interested in reading them. So I'll put a link to this in the description, but just so you know, it is possible to contact convicted murderers and get a story from them without financially supporting them. So little note to anyone who's in the business of contacting criminals and making content. Not anyone in particular, just, general knowledge for those who are out there. I know you're watching. Elizabeth Ann Biseglia met Daniel Broderick in 1965 at a University of Notre Dame football game. Betty was a college freshman, only 17. Dan was a pre-med senior. Eventually, he switched to law and graduated from the Harvard School of Law. The couple married in 1969. In the first 10 years of marriage, Betty became pregnant 14 times, but had multiple miscarriages. Though some assumed that Betty's life was enchanted, even from the earliest years of marriage, she faced unforeseen sorrows. Oh, I probably did say no that. That's very likely. It's become part of my lexicon. It's part of my go-to vocabulary, if you will. All right, moving on. Let me know if the reading gets a little too much. You want me to take a break, or, there's questions that come up. Bring them up in the chat. I'll probably be reading this for at least 2 to 3 pages, hopefully to get to the very first letter. That said, there are a few pages of backgrounder info, but I think it's appropriate today, so we'll continue reading it. But let me know if you're like, okay, come on, Dan. Didn't come here for kindergarten reading hour. Knowing firsthand the fragility of life, family meant everything. Betty cherished her 4 children, and her Catholic background reinforced her commitment. Betty's first priority was family, yet she learned to find a balance between her life at home and the need to support Dan's education. She took on several jobs while raising the babies, and Dan continued his schooling. Years later, in divorce court, the one truth both shared was an earlier devotion and commitment to family and success. Dan had relied heavily on Betty for nurturing and income while he continued school. With Betty's support, Dan was able to graduate and begin a career in medical malpractice law. He became president of the San Diego County chapter of the American Bar Association. After years of work, Dan finally found financial success in his career, and his influence and his bank account became substantial. Despite her family's newfound status as millionaires, Betty did what she had always done. She cared for her children, her home, and her husband. Day-to-day life was the same, just on a grander scale. Rich or poor, Betty Broderick was a model wife and mother. I almost think that particular passage was sent to Betty as an example of, look, this is what I'm writing. You can communicate with me or you can't, but this is in my biography for you. That sounds like it was more written to Betty than it was to us. Betty and Dan's relationship was as complex as it was common. While she worked endlessly to keep the family and their home in order, Dan seemed to demand more and more of her. Despite his dominating presence, Betty strove to make their life work out, no matter what the personal cost. Though seemingly small, his silent disregard for Betty's needs took its toll. For example, in one instance, Dan signed on to be a Boy Scout troop leader, only to force Betty to take over the position to cover for him. On other occasions, he would make decisions, such as where and when to buy a new house and move, or plan a vacation with his friends, announcing that Betty, but not the children, would come along. Then expect Betty to carry out his plans unquestioningly. Betty strove to fulfill Dan's expectations to meet the needs of her family. Some argue that she was compulsive in her need to please, while others believe Betty was truly in love with her life and her family. Regardless, while Betty was at home holding her family together, Dan was out enjoying newfound attention from women, where you can hear like the music cue, boom, boom, boom. If it was like the hard copy thing, that's when the screen would shatter. You'd see like that glass break. Checking in with the chat. Beth of a salesman had a death row pen pal for years. Religious reasons, not romantic. I can see pen paling with somebody in prison. That makes sense because it's, there's a mutuality to the relationship. The idea of pen paling an inmate and, toying that you're writing a documentary about them despite that you don't have any documentary experience, that kind of communication with an inmate seems a little sus to me, to use the kids' language. But yeah, no, I can see pen paling. I can even see there's got to be some criminals that are in there for life for, doing horrific things, but have literally changed and become, reformed who they are. Those people deserve to have a pen pal or some communication, even if they don't, should never get out. Can't begrudge them having someone to talk to. Kitten Pusher snuck in the word tainted. Yes, if you listened to last night's broadcast, we finished up on Sarah Boone's appeal, and one of the last words in her appeal is how the case has an ode to taint to it, an essence of taint. The case has been tainted. That taint is the reason that Sarah ain't supposed to be in jail. You smell the taint, you can't say ain't. No, that's not quite it. I'll work on that. There's room for that to be a rhyme. Let's get into Dan's affair with Linda KOLKENA. In 1983, Dan began an affair with Linda KOLKENA, a 21-year-old who worked at his office. Linda and Dan lived a secret life for 3 years before Dan finally felt ready to ask Betty for a divorce. When Dan began to move his things from the family home in 1985, no one was more surprised than his wife. Betty had recognized Dan's flirtations, but brushed them off as sowing his oats. Dan had been an awkward youngster, but later success had women falling all over him with romantic offers. Naively, Betty thought it was harmless. Just 40, she was a good-looking woman, accustomed to men's attention. She never thought to reciprocate, and she assumed her husband would respond similarly should the roles be reversed. Again, this is a little bit of this writer's glazing Betty with this kind of rhetoric anyway. I'd be interested to know the sourcing. It sounds like most of this is coming straight from Betty. Some of it might be in the court records as well, but so they're facts and evidence, but not necessarily proven facts, just facts that are in disagreement with other facts. But we'll continue. It was difficult for Betty and her children to deal with Dan's emotional abandonment. But the legal battle was worse. Betty did not have time to digest that her husband had been cheating for 3 years. She had to prepare for court. A daunting task if your husband is the court. As Betty explains, Dan... Oh, not Dan. It's just like Dan. Dan was in... That's a double quote. Okay. I don't like this. Personally, this is a little grammar thing. I think you should, if you're putting quotes within quotes, the quotes inside should be single, or vice versa. Double quotes on the inside, single quotes on the outside. So if you're quoting someone quoting something, you need to have a separate set of quote marks to indicate it's a quote within a quote. Dan was in bed with every attorney in town. He got everything in the end. The house, the money, our friends, even my children. Dan's notoriety within the San Diego law firms made it impossible for Betty to find representation. Again, she uses the word impossible. There's clear evidence that it was possible. She just didn't, it was hard. She's using the same histrionic language as Betty uses. Maybe that is a symptom of talking to prisoners as your job. You just keep accepting it. Yes, Kitten Pusher. Copy editing is one of the many talents I have in my quiver. Bing! Betty and Dan still argued over custody. Dan recorded a phone message from Betty, exposing her temper, and then had her arrested for harassment. Dan's legal powers appeared infinite. Betty became more and more aware of his influence. The incident happened before the divorce, but Dan continued to use her jail record to gain full custody, threatening to have her thrown in jail again if she did not comply with his custodial requests. He sent Betty a certified letter in which he stated that, "I firmly believe another jail sentence will be imposed." You're absolutely correct there. Betty could not take his threats. She was scared to death of losing her children. She knew Dan had the power and will to take them. After all, he'd betrayed her in every other way. In a panic late one night, Betty took a gun from her home and went to Dan and Linda's house where the couple was asleep. Betty shot them and then called the police from a nearby phone booth. She was later charged with double homicide. Yeah, so this is very much revisionist history. This is not how the court facts were presented, but fair enough if you're reading this or listening to this read. Just remember that this is reporting of Betty's point of view. That said, we will skip a little bit because the more I read of this, the more I can see that this is precursor to allow the publication. I think this might have been what she had to write. Like, this is what your chapter is going to look like. This is how I'm presenting it. Can I get your sign off to use it in the book? So we're going to skip all that. If you want to read it, you can. This now is the first letter that Jennifer wrote to Betty. So before any of the stuff I just read was written, this was her reach out letter. And this is where I think it gets a lot more interesting. Betty, I wrote to you once before. A long, drawn-out letter. I never heard back. And perhaps that's because it was sort of creepy to get a letter from a complete stranger. I do wish you'd write back, even to tell me what it is that makes you not want to respond. I'd like to share more with you why it is I'm so interested in you. So we'll take a step back. This obviously isn't the first contact, but maybe the first letter was this super long, rambly letter, and she never kept a copy of it and realized, oh crap, if I'm documenting this, I need to keep a copy of my own correspondence. It was written in the 2000s. Computers would have been around, but not prevalent, so it's very possible journalists would have worked fully from like paper notes. But in any case, let's continue with her letter to Betty. Oh yeah, she's sucking up. Your life, the way you think, what you did, it is important. You know what? Let's go back here. This is almost a this is a TED Talk in how you contact an inmate. Speaking to you guys, failed documentarians who never produced a documentary. This is a contact. This is hey, we want to get to know you. This is how you do it. Too late for you guys, but let's just... I'll read the beginning a little faster and then slow down for the new stuff. Betty, I wrote you once before, a long drawn-out letter I never heard back, and perhaps it's sort of creepy to get a letter from a complete stranger. I do wish you'd write back and even tell me what it is that makes you not want to respond. I'd like to share more with you why it is I'm so interested in you. Like that appeal to a narcissist, right? Your life, the way you think, what you did, it is important. Through your victimization, you shed light on what happens to some women when emotionally abused. You took action after Dan spent years ignoring and using you. Given the right light, your experience could be used to help other women. The judicial system, the treatment of women, the power men still have. I'm not a crazy letter-writing stalker out here. I'm an educated woman. I feel intrigued by your story. There are women out here who have similar experiences who can draw from you. I grieve for any murder case, but society must learn to detach the definition of a criminal mind from a criminal act. Actus reus, or actus rea versus mens rea. Mens rea. Actus rea. Criminal mind, criminal act. An act does not make one pathological, insane, etc. There was just a moment in time, based off of so many manic moments created by an affair and abuse. And you acted. And I feel this isolated incident should be treated as such. Not to be ignored, but to be acknowledged for what it was. A system that can turn our children away from us, put us away forever. This is so wrong. You are such a monument to your children, to your community. And then the attempt to sweep you under the rug? I hope my continued efforts to communicate with you aren't a bother. I'm sure you have people who care about you. I would just like to know you as well. Sincerely, Jennifer Furio. Are you getting furious with Furio at this point? This totally sounds like it's a letter to Sarah. and a letter that Sarah would answer. That would be fun. To just substitute Sarah for Betty in this and send it to her to see if she responds. Don't even change any of the details. Like, just swap out wholesale, George for Dan, and like, yeah, that's right. That's right. This is all. Wow, this person knows me. They really know me. All right, here is Betty's response. And this, again, really dives into the Betty and Sarah similarity. I'm going to read it straight, but there may be points where I stop and do a reread in my Sarah voice. Oh, and let me just take a quick second to, again, clear the passages. Excuse the mute. You don't realize how many objectionable noises you make with your body when you're not constantly muting yourself, but I've avoided one of those for you, and let's get back to the read. Dear Miss Furio, there is no way I can possibly answer all the mail I receive. I work very hard at my job, and the weekends are spent just keeping up with my regular correspondence, mostly to my children. Lots of people are impassioned by the injustices of my case. I was the sort of person, citizen, wife, mother, that everyone is supposed to be. I worked very hard all my life at doing the right thing. My children are my work product. They are lovely. Okay, I can't help it. I'm reading this in a Sarah voice. The affair was not my case. The callousness and the corruption of the courts that were supposed to protect us is. Hanging participle? No. Hanging preposition. Is a preposition? Maybe when used that way. Okay, that's a very Sarah sentence. The affair was not my case. The callousness and corruption of the courts that were supposed to protect us is. I wasn't swept under a rug that would have been easily... Oh, this is so... Wow. I wasn't swept under a rug that would have been easy compared to the endless litigious assaults that were waged upon me for years after the split. I understand the confusion regarding the killings, but they resulted from years of his taunting, his torment. When I actually went that night with the gun, it was as if it wasn't in my hand. Wow. Let's read that sentence again. When I actually went that night with the gun, it was as if it wasn't in my hand. I refuse to take responsibility for something so outside of myself as anything more than that. Dan created this altered state with his lies and deception, and in an altered state, the gun went off. The gun went off. Wasn't even in her hand. It's like the suitcase buckled itself when they saw those two fingers coming out. Just a blur. Next thing I know. Didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to do. Wow. I'm reading that one more time and just as straight as I can. Because this is, wow. Okay, here we go. I understand the confusion regarding the killings, but they resulted from years of his taunting, his torment. When I actually went that night with the gun, it was as if it wasn't in my hand. I refused to take responsibility for something so outside of myself as anything more than that. Dan created this altered state with his lies and deception, and in an altered state, the gun went off. Sure, you can come visit. I'd like that. I've had lots of visitors that have come from all over the country. I'm very blessed. Where are you lecturing, and what topic? My case is more than a murder case. There are 2 deceased people, but they were not murdered. There was no premeditation and no intent to shoot them. No intent. It was not intentional, Betty said. There was no premeditation and no intent to shoot them. I was not calculating. It was a fluke that could never be repeated. God put those bullets exactly where he wanted them in a moment of panic and movement. I couldn't possibly take credit for such a miracle. Okay, if I was blown away by the last paragraph, holy fuck. Okay, I'm going to read it in a Sarah. My case is more than a murder case. There are 2 deceased people, but they were not murdered. There was no premeditation and no intent to shoot them. I was not calculating. It was a fluke that could never be repeated. God put those bullets exactly where he wanted them in a moment of panic and movement. I couldn't possibly take credit for such a miracle. That sounds nuts, but if you were there and you could have witnessed me during that event, I was not thinking death or anything else. I suppose it was a rage. A need to say, see, this is fear, you son of a bitch. But I leave everything after to God. Betty blames God the way that Sarah blames wine. Okay. I'm going to substitute suitcase for bullets, and I'm going to substitute wine for God. We're going to read that one more time. My case is more than a murder case. There are 2 deceased people, but they were not murdered. There was no premeditation and no intent to shoot them. I was not calculating. It was a fluke that could never be repeated. Wine put that suitcase exactly where he wanted it to be in that moment of panic and movement. I couldn't possibly take credit for such a miracle. That sounds nuts, but if you were there and could have witnessed me during the event, I was not thinking death or anything else. I suppose it was a rage, a need to say, see, this is fear, you son of a bitch. But I blame everything after on the wine. Here's a visiting application. Visits are on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday only. I'll provide more details as the date comes closer. Have you read Until the 12th of Never? If you read that, I won't have to start from the beginning. Sincerely, Betty Broderick. Radical mom. All right, so do we need a palate cleanser after that? That was pretty badass, right? Do we want to hear the letter from the journalist? Do we want to hear more love letters? Do we want to take a break and go to some of her content from the trial? Because, my God, I can't leave it personally. I am interested in the response. I'll give you a couple of minutes. If God not only wanted them dead, but wanted 2 of the bullets to be close, but the 3 of them to hit, like if you're saying that God put all the bullets where he wanted, he just wanted 3 of them to hit of the 5? Wow. Okay. Let's continue with the journalist. I'm going to have a quick sip. I don't think I need to sneeze or anything. I feel clear. All right. The journalist. Not too long. Betty, just thought I'd let you know that I called today about visitation. I'm still pending. The man explained to me that they are still sorting through March. So, my plans to come down as soon as I had hoped have been delayed, sadly. I had no idea how famous you are. I mean, I know women, specifically women who are involved in organizations, the legal system, and so on, who are very aware of your case. Hold on. Now, this is also some clear. She's gaslighting here. She's page 157. She says she didn't know Betty was that famous. Let's just go through the table of contents of all the people that she's writing to. Okay, some of these I don't know, some of them I do know. Terry Rachels, Christine Bunch, Pamela Smart, Diane Bowerman, Hope Rippey and Tony Lawrence, Brenda Spencer, Christina Riggs, Betty Broderick, Carol Bundy, Shirley Curie, Susan Carson, Veronica Compton. Okay, so I actually only knew of Pamela Smart, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say that she knew exactly how famous Betty Broderick was if those were the other women that she was interviewing. Like, oh, no, I just randomly picked female criminals and got you. Jeez, you're a big deal, Betty. Wow. I didn't realize. Color me surprised. Carrot, there we go. 5-7. Do any of you know any of the names I just read beside Pamela Smart? Mention it in the comments. Maybe we'll do a little bit of a summary of any of those cases if they're totally interesting or not. Hey, A to B, welcome. Late to the live, but early to the news. A to B was the first message I got about Betty's death. Thank you very much, A to B, for forwarding that to me. Closely on your heels was LZB. Excuse me. Really put a wrench in my plans for the weekend. I thought that I was all done for my Friday. I was going to go out and enjoy the fair, and instead stayed home and put together a bunch of Betty content for the morning, and tonight I will go to the fair. They have a beer garden going. There's a karaoke night. A lot of fun ahead for Dan D. Let's get back to Betty's first response from Jennifer Furio. Yeah, just Pam for me too. Betty, just thought I'd let you know I called today about visitation. I'm still pending. The man explained to me that they're still sorting through March, so my plans to come down as soon as I had hoped had been delayed, sadly. I had no idea how famous you are. I mean, I know women, specifically women involved in organizations, the legal system, and so on, who are very aware of your case. Women who feel you did what many women may do after years of neglect, separation from children, spousal abandonment, for another woman. I also know that the media is still interested in you after all these years, but I had no idea people still think of you as the housewife turned rebel. I'll explain. People still think of her as the housewife turned rebel. I never thought of her as a rebel. Maybe that just, owes to my chauvinistic gaze, but when I think rebel, I either think Billy Idol or James Dean. The rebel yell, she cries more in the midnight hour, more. Yeah, Billy Idol. But yeah, and then James Dean, what are you rebelling against? Anyway, Never thought of Betty Broderick as a rebel, housewife turned rebel, housewife turned murderer. What I find humorous is that our society makes it out like what happened to you is not only unspeakable, but unheard of. As if this has never happened before. I just hung up the phone with a woman who works for the Prison Resource Center in Berkeley. She was not at all surprised at how shocked people are when a woman... You're a journalist. This is a book. This is a book on Academia EU. Not the way it's when a woman or when women. Normally I don't pick out mistakes, but this is a finished document. It's not like a final supplemental judgment where I can look past typos. Let me just read it again. She was not at all surprised at how shocked people are when a woman, intelligent like yourself, with a hell of a lot to lose, and no help from the system, has her moment. I believe the reason people are interested in you... I had to check. I wasn't sure if my mic was on. I believe the reason people are interested in you is that in the deepest parts of themselves, they know what you did isn't so surprising. Parenthetical. I wonder how many women in such circumstances have entertained similar thoughts. Spoiler, my mom, she did. She never did anything. My dad died of natural causes long after they broke up. My mom has an alibi. She was far away, definitely not connected. But she's confided, Mom of Lola, just looking over, seeing him sleeping beside her and thinking, got this pillow right here. She never did it. But she does sympathize with some women have thought it. Wouldn't be the first person a woman's thought it, but you don't go to jail for thought crime. You go to jail for murder, or you go to prison for murder. Nobody's going to prison for thought crime yet. What I find humorous is that our society makes it out like what happened to you is not only unspeakable, but unheard of, as if this has never happened before. I just hung up with a woman who works for Prison Resource Center in Berkeley. She was not at all surprised at how shocked people are when a woman, intelligent like yourself, with a hell of a lot to lose and no help from the system, has her moment. I believe people are interested in you. I believe the reason people are interested in you is that in the deepest parts of themselves, they know what you did isn't so surprising. I wonder how many women in such circumstances have entered similar thoughts. Murder is a horrible result, but it is a result of something else. No one comes right out and says so, but basically, you took an action. You were panicked, but you still reacted, and men and women privately have to ask themselves if honestly it is so alien to their own human capacity. It's like the emperor's new clothes. It's not like the emperor's new clothes. That, I'm offended from a literary point of view. There's lots of applications of the story of the emperor's new clothes. That is not one of them. So let's just do a quick breakdown. I'm sure you can throw a 1 if you're familiar with the story of Emperor's New Clothes. You don't have to admit it if you don't, but you can throw 1s in if you do. And yes, Carolina Hurtado, Betty Broderick has passed away. Passed away as of yesterday, 78 years old. Natural causes. The death was due to complications after a fall and a broken rib. There's a statement that a couple other people in chat made known to me where RHETT explained that those were the reasons for it. So if you're just joining the stream, that's why we're doing another Betty Broderick stream so soon. Yeah, Carolina Hurtado said, Betty's dead. I came in late. Sorry. I wasn't aware of Betty passing in prison. That's what your thumbnail says. She's done with her prison sentence. Exactly. Her prison sentence was life in Florida prison, and that sentence is complete. So we get a bit of a preview of how Sarah will complete her sentence, because she's very confident that, it's just a matter of time, and she's right. It is just a matter of time until she completes her sentence and is no longer in a Florida prison. But for now she is, and for the time being, she will be. An interesting thing also, Carolina, is if I have some sort of hidden talent of following a case of a murderer in marathon format, and that murderer completing their sentence in prison within a couple of weeks of me finishing the marathon, bad news for Sarah is I've got a Sarah marathon in the... That's what's coming next. My Friday morning lives are going to be, we're just going to do it every Friday. It's not going to be a daily marathon, but we're just going to go through the Sarah case. I'm going to get my thoughts on record. We'll start with the pretrial. We'll go through the 5 days of trial, probably 2 to 3 hours a day in the mornings, but get all that on record. But look out, Sarah. Dan D Marathon is coming for you. Now let's get back to the Emperor's New Clothes. I do see at least one in the chat. The story is, it's about how society will go along with a lie if enough people believe it, and there's enough investment in the lie being true. So the very simple summary of the story is there's a monarch. He wants a beautiful jacket. Nothing could be ostentatious enough for him. He wants the most resplendent, the finest filigree fabric, just everything over the top. It can't be anything that another person's worn before. If the monarch in Spain has worn it, then it's not good enough for him. So impossible standards. So the tailor, brilliant tailor, hands him the finest jacket. So fine that unless you're intelligent enough, you can't even see the jacket. You have to be a certain level of class, of wealth, of all of these subjective measures of worth. You need to have them just to even see this beautiful coat. And the Emperor's, whoa. And now he can't see the coat, but he doesn't want to admit to a simple tailor, that he can't see the coat of the tailor's. So he puts it on, and, he tells the people, they've all heard the story. Well, what do you think? And they're looking at their ruler, picture a body like mine, a little paunchy, all glory out there, just hanging asunder while wearing this beautiful robe that no one can see. And everyone's buying in. Everyone's like, oh, it's a beautiful robe. Nobody wants to tell the Emperor that he's an idiot. So they just assume, oh, well, I must be the idiot, and I'm going to go along with the story. Until he's doing a parade and everyone's cheering, the streets are lined, and a child says, why is he naked? And all of a sudden the illusion collapses, because people realize, okay, it's not just me. I see it. Anyway, it's not like the Emperor's New Clothes. She's trying to use that as an analogy for like Betty being gaslit, but there's no parallel between the Emperor's New Clothes and Betty Broderick's situation. She's throwing it in here maybe to impress Betty, like by using a relatively common literary reference to elevate Betty's stories, as though, they align with this fairly well-known parable. But anyway, I was a little bit more impressed with Jennifer Furio when I started this than now that I've really dove into this. Give her credit. The book is laid out. It's a nice font. The spacing's nice. The margins are good. Got to come up with something nice to say, right? All right, let's go back. No one comes right out and says so, but you basically took an action. You were panicked, but you still reacted. And men and women privately have to ask themselves if, honestly, it is so alien to their human capacity. It's like the emperor's new clothes. No, it's not. There are women all over the world who have done what you finally felt backed into. And so what is there to do? There are women all over the world who have done what you finally felt backed into. I don't think... So let's assume that's true. If there are women all over the world who have murdered their spouses, that doesn't make it, oh, poor Betty, she's the only one who had to face trial for murder. Most women, it's just, you were mad. Poor Betty, why did you have to go to trial twice? Oh, the indignity. There are women all over the world who have done what you finally felt backed into. So, what is there to do? I do know people want very much to see women like you released. I'm going to a function in San Francisco this Sunday night to discuss such issues. Should be interesting. It's kind of funny. Frances had a playtime at her friend's house today. We have a birthday party to attend in the park for one of Dennis's friends, and then it's off to hang out with prison activists this weekend. It's the only thing I do outside of family, but it's so important to me because I want my kids to understand that by the time they have grown, society will have had to have made some changes. It's too barbaric putting women away, even killing them, after all the suffering the courts won't acknowledge the women endured. Wow. Apologetic much there, Jennifer. Wow. So first she inserts her own children, I assume. And that I get. You're trying to create rapport with Betty. You know that she claims to be, a devoted mother. So by showing, hey, I'm doing a playtime with one kid, the other kid's having a birthday party, and the rest of my time I'm spending with you. It's all family and criminals for me. But then to go into this, it's too barbaric, putting women away, even killing them. I agree, I'm not a death penalty fan, but that's an argument for another day. We can do a whole video discussing the merits, and I wouldn't mind having a debate on it if somebody wanted to do something like that. But in any case, it's a contentious subject. We don't need to bring that up here. What I will say is that it's not too barbaric to put women away who murder people. I think that's a fairly reasonable thing to do with women who murder people, but you're trying to get in Betty's good side, so that's why she's writing what she wrote. Ada B's taking Izzy for a walk in the Denver sunshine. Is she wearing her little bee outfit? Izzy's an adorable dog from A to B that has a bee outfit, so she can Izzy B dog when she wants. There's some talk about the Oprah episodes. I haven't seen the full episodes, but there are a number of channels that do include the Oprah interviews with the Broderick children. Worth searching out. I've just haven't even bothered looking at them because I know there's no way I can play an Oprah clip without being claimed, if not by the Oprah production company, then perhaps Sinclair Media or one of the media organizations that owns everything. So I can't touch that. Too hot. Psst. Very broad statement to say that they shouldn't put women away. A to B, it is a broad statement. Got to put those broads away, the broads that are murdering people. But it's been a long time since broad has been a synonym for women. Yeah, so anyway, I was talking to these broads over at the bar, trying to take one home, but you know how broads are. Anyway, how did I figure you were so famous? 2020 called me. I guess someone who had read another book I had written had called them. So they were talking about doing a segment on these issues, legal reform, blah, blah, blah. And they mentioned to me that they'd even had Betty Broderick on the show. The guy didn't seem nearly as interested in the fact that the murder occurred or your abuse. This is funny. Okay. I tripped over it, but this gives me a chance to comment on it. The writer is absolving her own feelings of guilt for contacting and blowing smoke up the ass of a double murderer that this sentence got written. She's talking about the guy who was talking to her from 2020 and was like, hey, you know, if you're talking to Betty Broderick, maybe you'd like to do our show. The guy didn't seem nearly as interested in the fact that a murder had occurred or your abuse, but more in a very unsettling way that they were proud of having met a celebrity. An incredibly scary footnote about our world. So this Jennifer Ferriero, who's writing, you know, an academic book, I'll give her credit for that, is calling out the TV, well, not even a producer, just a TV guy, who was talking to her about getting her on the show. And hey, we even had Betty Broderick on the show. You'd think that would be like part of a rapport building on the TV guy's part. Like, hey, we're having you on because you talked to famous murderers. Guess who we had on the show? And she's acting like, oh yeah, no, I found it a bit off-putting the way he was excited to meet you. Didn't even care that a murder occurred. Meanwhile, she's apologizing for the murder in all of her correspondence with Betty. Doesn't seem interested in the fact a murder occurred. More about her abuse, yeah. Oh, Jennifer, my opinion of you has gone, it's plummeted. Absolutely plummeted. Anyhow, I hope to hear from you soon. I know you have work and kids, not to mention Mother's Day. I hope I remember to wish you the best. It's your letter. What do you mean? I hope I remember to wish you. Just wish her. Are you kidding? Jennifer. This almost is like it's almost as sycophantic as a ChatGPT response. Like if Betty had been conversing with a ChatGPT. Anyhow, I hope to hear from you soon. I know you have working kids, not to mention Mother's Day. I hope I remember to wish you the best. Well, you did. You just did. So I can't expect to be a male priority, but when you can, sorry, gotta go. Kids are tugging at me. Dinner! Again, this is an invented scenario. She has all the time, you know, she can put down the pen and continue the letter, but she's acting like she has to, you know, dash it off because the stove is boiling over. And again, it's contrived. It's really trying to pull at the I'm a mom, you're a mom, we make dinner heartstrings. But oh, Barry Adams, welcome to the chat. Posted news of the Betty death on the channel and finds it cool that we're already here talking about it. Yeah, I'm a bit blown away at how close that happened to the end of our marathon. And, you know, thank you, Betty. You know, if you're going to choose a time to die, the best possible time is right after I put up 30 days worth of content. From a purely self-interested view, this is going to have a knock-on effect of everybody who, you know, just does a casual search for the news. I'm not going to be the top result, but I will be a result. So for people who are trying to scroll through and find something longer than a 2-minute soundbite on Betty Broderick, dead, 78, California prison, you'll see, oh, marathon. Oh, this is only a month old. What? Who was watching this just before? And now everything you guys said in those chats, all of the conversations we had, those are all going to start getting recycled by people who have new interest in the case. So the timing couldn't be better from a Dan D true crime point of view. Probably could have been better from a California prisons point of view for how much money they spent housing her over all these years. But yeah, it's crazy timing. And it tells me that I need to start covering more criminals that need to complete their sentences. So Betty was sentenced to life in prison and has completed that sentence. Sarah Boone is also sentenced to life in prison, and I will be attacking her case with a Friday morning marathon. We'll be doing that every Friday. Kitten Pusher mentions that I was mentioned during Hear Me Out stream last night. Some Betty followers were there and had not heard of you yet. I did notice that I got some subscription lift while I was asleep. Okay, I'm up to 980 now. We're 20 away from the magic 1,000 where I stopped talking about how many subscribers I have. But yeah, it's the first time, I think, since I started creating YouTube where I got subscribers without putting out new content. It was just people searching up older content and maybe even you guys talking about it. So thank you so much for respectfully talking about me on another creator's stream. You don't want to spam their chats or take attention away from their case, but obviously with breaking news, you're not going to just not bring up breaking news just because another creator covered it. So I appreciate hearing that that those conversations were happening. About an hour into the Hear Me Out Sarah Boone stream was when I realized that Betty had died and basically got my ducks in a row to start putting together this stream and get all this content ready. So it's yes, I am penalized if it drops to $9.99. Kitten Pusher asks a great question. So once you reach 1,000 and it drops to $9.99 again, are you penalized? Yeah. AdSense doesn't care how close you are. So ideally, like, 100 or 1,020, 1,030 would give you the room, because YouTube sometimes just cancels accounts that are dead. So if an account hasn't logged into YouTube in a year, they might just unsubscribe your channel or if they haven't watched you for that year. So I don't have that problem because I'm less than a year old, but yeah, there's that. So I do want more than 1,000, but 1,000 is what it takes to unlock the AdSense, which will be just a little passive revenue generator and will make it a little easier for me to invest in new things like a fancy microphone. Like, did you see Danielle Chavon's new microphone? That's slick. It's like, it glows and it's like, it sounds really good too. Her first stream on it was a little quiet, but as soon as I put it on an external speaker, I could tell that it was rich. So as she dials in her settings, that's gonna, I don't know, it's making me jealous of, she's got the fancy Shure mic, I think. The headset's not bad. It's not bad. Anyone who's thinking about breaking into YouTube, this is the way to go to get started. I think this headset, I got it on sale for $30. It's a $50 headset. But yeah, decent. It was really good for cutting out ambient noise. I had tile setters in the basement doing work while I was streaming, and you could only hear them if I talked during it. But Victoria Carmen says, you will surely be mentioned. No one's covered this case for years. So thank you, Victoria. Very crazy timing, and yeah, it's pretty wild. Pretty wild. I do have a little bit of Mike envy, yes, Mom of Lola. That said, just like I drive a Hyundai Accent, you don't always need to compensate for the size of your microphone. Dear Jennifer, Betty writes, I love the photo. So you know how much a mother loves her children and how difficult it is to be supermom. Difficult, but well worth it. I loved being a busy, involved mom. I made my choices happily. I wonder if I was a good enough mom, and if I could have done a better job. I tried really hard, but to a person like me, there's no such thing as good enough. Holy, just glaze yourself. So I'm guessing Jennifer sent pictures of her kids along with that last one, and if we know from Sarah, pictures are currency in prison. I didn't see a lot of people bring this up during her begging for pictures. I remember this from the tablet messages. But I was always concerned when she was begging for pictures of son, pictures of her military brother, that it literally was currency in the jail. It wasn't, it sounds like, oh, I just want to look and gaze upon my son. I bet there's a market for, well, let's look at a men's prison, and, maybe I don't have to explain it too much. So if there's a prisoner that's got an attractive daughter, mid-20s, attractive wife, mid-40s, and can get pictures of them in the prison, do you think that there's other prisoners that would enjoy having a photograph of an attractive woman that has no relation to them as something for those comfort moments in the dark of the night? I worry that that's what Sarah wanted a lot of her pictures for. I think the pictures of pets and stuff, that's, just, I want cute animals. But I would worry that pictures of brother and son probably weren't going to be enjoyed as, I don't know, maybe I'm just speculating, but I think the worst of people sometimes, and I can see how those could be used in a bad way. Let's get back to the response where Betty is she's just over the moon at Jennifer's glazing. I love the photo. So you know how much a mother loves her children and how difficult it is to be super mom. Difficult, but well worth it. I loved being a busy, involved mom. I made my choices happily. I always wonder if I was a good enough mom, and if I could have done a better job. I tried really hard, but to a person like me, there's no such thing as good enough. I get very, very sick and upset, even now, whenever I think of all I endured, because it was all so cruel, inhumane, and illegal, italic. So I do not look forward to meeting with you and rehashing this. So I do not look forward to meeting with you and rehashing this. If you can get until the 12th, it will save me telling you the gory details. All right, so if you want the gory details from Betty's point of view, read the book Until the 12th of Never. If you're not interested in a book that clearly is from Betty's point of view without substantiating evidence, then avoid Until the 12th of Never. Okay. Oh, and she even has some shade for the author of that book. If you can get until the 12th, it will save me telling you the gory details. That author had no children and was a kick-butt working gal feminist. She really couldn't understand what a mother does for her children or why. Yes, Betty, only you know what it's like to be a mother. There's no way a working gal feminist would have any maternal tendencies. Wow. Really up your own ass here. She was very good at legal researching. The other two books just do a surface emotional job of the story. The DA's only version is, he left her for a younger woman, and she went there and shot them. Duh! There is a 6-year time span to cover here. 1983 to 1989, exclamation point, exclamation point. The affair was over in 1985. This is a story of I said it right before. Litigious. This is a story of litigious assault by an armed and dangerous terrorist. The children were POWs of the war he started and kept going for 6 years. I never stood a chance as the defendant he forced me to be. It was so sad, and there was nothing anyone could do to make him stop. He was determined to eradicate me from the face of this earth by one means or another. I'm just going to contrast that with Sarah Boone testimony. Let me read it again super straight. It was so sad there was nothing anyone could do to make him stop. He was determined to eradicate me from the face of the earth by one means or another. He said he'd fucking end me. What was that? End me? Could you repeat that? He said he'd fucking end me. He said he'd end you? He was determined to eradicate me from the face of the earth by one means or the other. To use that language and be completely oblivious to the fact that you eradicated two people from the face of the earth, not by one means or another, but by one means. It's so stark, the disconnect between her explaining her own even legitimate grievances, but tying them up with justification for an act that if she could only show a little remorse, she wouldn't have died in prison, wouldn't have died in custody. Mandy 13, what I'm reading from is a book called, what is the book called? Letters from Prison, Voices of Women Murderers, a book by Jennifer Furio, written in about 2000s, and it's just a compilation of letters from, correspondence between Jennifer Furio and prisoners at the time, women killers. Victoria Carmen asks a fascinating question. If Sarah hates Tanika, can you imagine what a Dandy marathon would do to her? That's interesting. So at the time of the case, everyone was basically doing marathons, just kind of the trial watch. But nobody's done a trial rewatch marathon. I know, reporting live from my sofa, he's rewatching big chunks of the trial, and I'd recommend it. Like, I'm not going to watch it if I'm going to do my own. I don't want to just be repeating things that he said, but at the same time, I have watched a little of what he's done so far, and Paul's great. I would watch that 100% if you're a Sarah Boone fan. And I'm only going to be doing it on Friday, so there's lots of time to watch other content in between my marathon. But yeah, I could see that starting to stick in her craw, as it will. And we could just keep doing it. So if this is 40 weeks of 2 hours a week of Dandy revisiting her trial and getting into the minutia, I think the best thing about it is we've learned so much from her family trial, from the snippets of good information that come out of the shitty phone calls, that rewatching the trial with all the knowledge we have now, there's going to be some stuff that we pull out of it that will be fascinating. That's a great point. Thank you, Victoria Carmen. Maybe I can even get Tanika on for one of the rewatches. Crossed. All right. The children were POWs. The war was started by Dan. Da-da-da-da-da. Your kids are adorable. It's great you work and mother both at the same time. Very difficult, I know. I always worked and had 4 kids to spoil. Little shade. Oh, that's adorable. Look at you and your 2 kids and a job. I had 4 kids, 3 jobs. But look at you. You go, girl, with your 2 kids. Proud of you. I've always worked and had 4 kids to spoil. Pretty busy gal. I was. I also kept a beautiful, clean, and orderly home and did 99.9% of the housework myself. We had Maria, who worked 8 to 3 1 day a week, mostly helping with the laundry. But we were never rich while married. We didn't get rich until 1983. First thing he did was get a red Corvette and a bimbo. We spent an entire marriage in our first and only tract home with little to no furniture. That came up in the trial. As soon as he was ready to take the leap we had worked so hard to attain, I got nothing but a big, "Hey, Scott, how you doing?" I got nothing but the big middle finger as a thanks for everything. Sorry I have to write like this. Things as mundane as paper, cheap pen, envelope, and stamps are hard to come by in here. Look at her dissing the pen. I have to use a paper mate. Ugh. Next they'll have me using a Bic. You know, before I came here I used a Fantas pen for everything. And now I'm stuck using these cheap pens and low quality paper. Life is very difficult in here, but I find myself doing as I did before, putting on a happy face and coping the best I can. That's another Sarah Boone. Let me just read this straight in her voice. Sorry I have to write like this. Things as mundane as paper, cheap pen, envelope, and stamps are hard to come by in here. Life is very difficult in here, but I find myself doing as I did before, putting on a happy face and coping the best I can. If I bitched, screamed, and complained more, maybe people would be more... If I bitched, screamed, and complained more, maybe people would be in more of a hurry to get me out of here. Here's another form. Visiting here is no fun, as you probably know from your other prison forays. Many rules and restrictions, which I will send along when the date is nearer. Glad you liked our prison photos. See you soon, Betty. So they did a photo exchange, Betty. Sent some photo. Billie Jean is back, Billie Jeanie. I dream of Jeanie. Is here. If you saw Not My Lover and are missing Not My Lover's comments, Billie Jean is not my lover. Just a girl who came to the chat. Thinks that Betty's the one. Betty who shot them with her gun. Fuck you, Billy. Good to see you. Good to see you indeed. Now it looks like a second response from Betty in between these two. So either Jennifer edited her... Oh, and this is the last one. Last journalist letter. Last journalist letter. I hold on my screen the last letter to a journalist from Betty Broderick. This document. Jennifer, what Dan did, he did to himself when he decided to give up on family and everything I had given to him for a younger model of me. Pretty easy to step in and try and play mom at that point, but that's not the point. It was the literal war he enforced. Lots of money. The kid's older. I was left with nothing. It was so hard on everyone. Dan wanted me to look crazy. I admit I was pissed. But I was not wrong for my feelings. He betrayed me. No, I was betrayed in a way you cannot know! Exclamation point, exclamation point, exclamation point, exclamation point, exclamation point. Murder is not wrong for my feelings. I was panicked. Out of my head. I had to get myself out of that whole long-lived nightmare. I wasn't thinking about murder. I was just out of my head that night. I had a gun. I wanted to scare someone. Maybe kill myself. I don't know. Who knows but God? Like I said, you cannot know. Everyone was being turned against me. I was kept in the dark about all our finances. Dan gave me up, and he thought he had the right to walk away from all his experiences, built up over 20 years of our lives! Exclamation point, exclamation point, exclamation point, exclamation point. I don't know what happened that night. I thank God that my children and I can be close, that we have that. I worked all my life to have a relationship with my kids. I'll have it from wherever necessary. Dan can't take that. Betty. No goodbye, no yours truly. Something soured in between that letter and the one before. In any case, that's all I have on the Jennifer Furio letters. So I will close the vote because obviously there's no more letters to the journalist to read. I'm glad that you guys enjoyed that. I will switch it back to the Broderick letters, though. And oh yeah, I have a different. So those are the raw letters, but I have a different screen with my copies of those letters reformatted. Take a quick break too. My goodness. So 41 people in the chat. That's almost double from what we were normally getting through the marathon. So big welcome to everybody who is here, not normally watching the Dan D lives. Maybe here just for the Betty Broderick coverage. Maybe here, well, who knows why you're here. I'm not going to question your reasons for being here. I am going to thank you for being here and hope we can create more content that you want to enjoy in the future. It's a great community here. If you enjoy true crime, we cover Betty Broderick, Sarah Boone, and Afroman fairly extensively on this channel. I say we is me, but I couldn't do it without my fine and dandy chat, so I'm taken to using the royal we when discussing my page, my channel. It's our channel. It's your channel. It's all of ours. But yeah, let's get back into the love letters, and I think I've got my own versions of them up on the screen here. Do that one. Beautiful. Remember my beautiful roses. Okay, love me. Yeah, we did read that. So let's go to the next one, which is letter 4 of 8. It's possible A to B. They could have, A to B asks, were they talking on the phone during that same time? Furio and Betty. It makes sense. It makes sense. The letters would be your first point of contact of, you know, your way of getting in touch. But very likely they were negotiating getting closer to the visitation days. But there's no talk of an actual visit, so seems like it collapsed as quickly as the relationship sprung up. Okay, yeah. So, yeah, we're all not... Billie Jean is wondering if she's the only one tripping out on how crazy it is that Betty dies so close to our marathon. I really... If I have a magic Midas touch for helping inmates complete their sentences and lessening the strain on the system, we'll find out. If something happens to Sarah, because Sarah's young, like Betty, you know, is natural age. If something happens to Sarah during the marathon coverage we do of her trial on Friday mornings, I will start picking reprehensible criminals that still happen to be alive in prison, and we'll just revisit their cases, maybe jumpstart the the moral comeuppance. This letter is from Sunday, the 9th day of the so it would be the 9th month of the 14th day of the 13th year. Sunday, September 14th, 2013. Dear Brad. Yep, that's the same letter. Good. Today is September 14th. What a waste. You just put that in the heading. The very top, it says Sunday the 14th. Oh, never mind. The date is relevant. Dear Brad, today is September 14th, and I still don't have the August money. Brownie face. Today is September 14th, and I still don't have the August money. Please send August and September. This place is stressful enough without stressing over the money every month. How's it going? How's it going? Oh, how's it going back with Lisa? Oh, that's nice. Betty wants to know that Brad's getting along with his new paramour. Well, that's nice. None of this who's merry business, but how's it going getting back with Lisa? I'd like to see you for your big B day. Try and get here. Love, me. There's not much here, and there's a lot here. So unlike a Sarah letter, which is just cram-packed on the page, Betty leaves, space in between. It's a double-spaced. The cursive is a little tough. It's actually not that different from what my cursive looks like. And yeah, I have trouble reading my own handwriting. But let's just revisit. These are just 4 sentences in this letter. Today is September 14th, and I still don't have the August money. Please send August and September. This place is stressful enough without stressing over the money every month. How's it going getting back with Lisa? I'd like to see you for your big day. Try and get here. So the first half is about money. Today is September 14th. I still don't have the August money. I should have August and September by now, but where's my money? Send my money. But she doesn't, she's made her point. She doesn't need to cram it in the margins. She said it. And then she gets into, I better inquire about his personal life. How's it going getting back with Lisa? Next question. I'd like to see you for your big B day. Try and get here. Is she trying to get a conjugal visit? Did you need to be married to get a conjugal visit? Or could you get them if they were on your visitation list? Brad was visiting, and he was also giving money. There are some canceled checks that I'm not putting in part of the slideshow, but showed that he was giving Betty's daughter $1,000 and $2,000 canceled checks from the Brad Wright account. So that's a very interesting short letter. Let me just read it one more time, this time in a Sarah voice. Today is September 14th, and I still don't have the August money. Please send August and September. This place is stressful enough without stressing out over money every month. How's it going getting back with Mary? I'd like to see you for your birthday. Try to get here. Love, me. Okay. Now we have a card. Let's move on to the card. Love letters. There we go. A lovely little card. The card reads, our mail is screwed up here. I still haven't received my March money. And it's already April 20th. Help! Exclamation point, exclamation point. Sure want to see you so you can tell me all of your news. Since I know you hate writing letters. Saturday morning phone calls? Question mark? Smiley face. And then the actual letter or the card had text pre-printed that she appended with, hi, honey, ... But it's real nice to know you're out there. Out there. Miss you. Love me. 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 Our mail is screwed up here. I still haven't received my March money, and it's already April 20th! Exclamation point, exclamation point. Help! Exclamation point, exclamation point. Sure want to see you so you can tell me. Why does she underline tell? Oh, because he hates writing. Saturday AM phone calls, please. All right, let's move on. This is another bit of a card. It looks like almost like on thank you card. There's a front and back to this one. Not much bigger than a business card. Wow, but it's professionally monogrammed. Where did she get these? I don't know if you can see it on the screen. Let me see if I can bring up my hand. That part. Anyway, Betty Broderick is it's pre-printed onto this card in a handwriting font. I don't know how you get those in prison. You have to maybe be at one of those luxury prisons for the rich. I didn't think Chino was a luxury prison for the rich. This is from January 16th, 2006. Dear Brad, I check the obits regularly. So far, I've not seen yours. Question mark, or not, happy face. So where are you? And where is my money? Help! I need to see you. It's been too long. Love me. October, November, December, and January. Oh, and there's a little arrow to say turn over. So let's, I have to give it to Betty. Betty, in 2 sentences, is able to, it takes Sarah several pages, margins she shouldn't be using, and at least, 3 to 4 completely repeated phrases and words to get what Betty gets across in a simple card. So a little shade. I check the obits regularly. So far, I've not seen yours. That's, well, I haven't heard from you. I figured you must be dead. But seeing as you're not in the obits, I guess you're just not messaging me. Dear Brad, I check the obits regularly. So far, I've not seen yours. Smiley face. Where are you? And where is my money? Help! Exclamation point, exclamation point, exclamation point. I need to see you. It's been too long. Love me. October, November, December, and January! Exclamation point, exclamation point. What does the back of the card say? What does it say? I'm sure you're wondering, because I'm not just stalling to get to that part. There's the back of the card. The back of the card says, no Halloween card? Boo! No birthday card? No Thanksgiving? No Christmas? No Happy New Year? How about Valentine's Day? For reference, this was sent on January 16th. Brad, at this point, is 4 months behind on the money she believes that he should be giving her. Also, no Halloween card, no birthday card, no Thanksgiving, no Christmas. Those are listed in order. Betty's birthday is in between Halloween and Thanksgiving. Interesting note. Betty celebrated her birthday in court when we were watching. Because we know that it was pre-Halloween when it started. And we know she was there until after the anniversary of the murders, which is November 5th. Excuse me. She was there for 3 weeks. So I think she celebrated both the anniversary of her murders and her birthday while in court. And spoiler alert, there is no Valentine's Day card. Okay, so now we are getting both towards the end of the content I've pre-prepared and consequently towards the end of the show. Now these 4 letters, you're not going to be able to read them on screen, but I have included a representation of them. Unfortunately, I had so much difficulty reading these letters that I needed to go. Let me Command All and go. I needed to get this transcribed by an AI. So if there's any points that sound weird, it could be because it was an AI translation of the handwriting. The good thing was that the AI did have reference to a San Diego News 8 report. So basically put together what it was able to find from the report on these letters to what the letters say. So starting from the top left, this is letter 1. We'll rotate around. So top left first. Hi, Brad. It's nice to hear something from you. Sorry to hear your life is a mess. I don't want to add more to a mess. Did you go to counseling? Whatever patterns you have in your relationship will continue for better or worse. You know the definition of insanity. Doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result? I should know. I kept hoping the courts would protect me. Anyway, if you want to live in La Playa with me, like you say you do, now we move to the top right, going back to Lisa is not how that's gonna happen. I can't believe you don't come here. It's been years. Now that she's back to work, maybe you can sneak away. Does she have a low jack on your car so she can track you? Does everyone remember what the low jack system was? When car hijackings were becoming a big thing in the 90s. I don't know, big thing. But it was a thing. It was the low jack was the tracking device that you could put on your car. So if someone stole it, you could call the police and it would have a signal that just showed you what streets you're. It was pretty advanced technology for the 90s, but fairly basic by today's standards. I think every car has some sort of tracking GPS system in it. Still need to get it subpoenaed, but yeah, you don't need to pay for an extra low jack system anyway. Anyway, we'll get back to it, but what Betty's doing is trying to convince Brad to give up Lisa, whoever he's dating on the outside, trying to make it work through counseling and say, it's crazy, it's stupid. Why even go back? If it's not working out, the best thing you can do is come down to the prison here and, sneak away a little time with me, and then we can move out and live our best lives together in La Jolla. All right, let's go back. Oh, La Playa. Anyway, if you want to live in La Playa with me, like you say you do, going back to Lisa is not how that's going to happen. I can't believe you don't come here. It's been years. Now that she's back to work, maybe you can sneak away. Does she have a low jack on your car so she can track you? Winky face. Thanks for the July money. I stress so bad when it doesn't arrive on time. Did you go to Tom's retirement party? They sent me an invitation. Lots of her friends are fans of mine. They sent me an invitation. Well, that was nice of them to include Betty. Respondez s'il vous plaît. I'm sorry I won't be able to attend your retirement as I am currently incarcerated. Temporarily until my appeal is heard. Now continuing to page 3 on the bottom left. I'm writing a book now, as well as sending in the writ. Everybody has been telling me to write it. It is a book. The problem is you can't tell this story without telling what horrible, illegal, unethical things Hargraves, Smith, and the judges did. If you name an ally in the book, they'll sue you, even if it's true. Remember how Dan did that? Well, you can't tell this story without telling on them, because that's what caused it all. Okay, Betty? This is a little bit like Sarah, too, where she thought that the state was somehow afraid of her testimony and that her exposing the system was the reason they were offering her a plea deal. And, we don't want her to go up on the stand. My God, if she exposes what happens in the back rooms of power, nobody gives a shit about your case. Well, that's true and not true. Nobody gives a shit about the injustices Sarah suffered because she didn't. People do give a shit about injustices, but Sarah, you were begging for injustices so that you could grieve about them. And if anything, seem a little disappointed that you didn't get enough injustices to work with for your appeal, because that appeal doesn't look good. All right, page 4, bottom right. I'm back from work. While I was at work, I was thinking of what I'm looking for in a man. Interesting use of your thinking time while in a prison for women, but while I was at work, I was thinking about what I'm looking for in a man. Since you are not available, well, the list was a description of you. You're exactly the guy. Damn it, I was happy with you. Too bad Lisa would never leave us alone. Let's just go back to the trial testimony briefly here, because we are near the end of the show. You remember when Betty was asked who Brad was to her? Just a friend. He's just a good friend. No, we did not have a sexual relationship. No. You all want to say that. He's just a good friend. Don't you understand? He's just a dear, good friend. I'm back from work. While I was at work, I was thinking about what I'm looking for in a man, since you are not available. Well, the list was a description of you. You're exactly the guy. Damn it, I was happy with you. Too bad Lisa would never leave us alone. So here's Betty complaining about the exact same, Christ. You know what? For all the people that wanted Betty to think, to have some remorse, this is the closest thing. She's channeling Linda right here. Linda was happy with Dan. Linda, quite apart from homewrecker or any of that, as a person, she's happy with Dan. She's excited. Hey, if it wasn't for this bitch Betty, my life would be perfect. And meanwhile, Betty in prison is writing to Brad about how he's exactly the guy that she wants to be with, but it's too bad that Lisa wouldn't leave Brad and Betty alone. Oh, poetic. Poetic, Betty. How could you be so oblivious? I'm back from work. While I was at work, I was thinking about what I'm looking for in a man, since you're not available. Well, the list was a description of you. Damn it, I was happy with you. Too bad Lisa would never leave us alone. I can't believe what I just saw in the paper. Shit! I never pled insanity. There's no such thing as third-degree murder, and I haven't been in Coachella for 10 years. Slanderous. This is Betty real-time reacting to something that Brad would have no context for. He's just, oh, okay, I guess she saw something in the paper. Now Brad, 3 weeks later, has to marry up the paper that she would have been looking at. Okay, so that's the end of that. We've read the letters. We've read the letters from prison. We've watched content on our little TV screen. We broke the news. And now we are near the end. Near the end of our broadcast day. We do still have footage, so if you want, we can watch a little bit more Betty trial footage. That gives me a chance to relax a little bit too. I can just sit back and have a medical cigarette and enjoy the testimony with you. There's a few different days of testimony, so if we want to close it off with 20 minutes, maybe your cross-examination with Carrie Wells, who went on to become Judge Carrie Wells. I think we have wrapped it up pretty well, though. I think switch to A little bit of the trial, moving ahead to cross. I can't believe how long Jack Early actually testified, asked questions. That was a long stretch. There. Let this play out a little bit.
That I don't recall, those are not things that anybody did. Those are the personal injury attorney's way of.
Interesting. A to B coming to the party late is like, who's Lisa? And yeah, don't worry, we don't know who Lisa is. Lisa's a new character. Lisa was Brad's girlfriend after Betty was incarcerated. So Brad continued to give monetary support, emotional support, answering letters, giving money for Betty's children. Lee Broderick was getting direct checks from Brad Wright 15 years after she was in prison. So their relationship was strong. But Brad probably said, hey, just so you know, dating this girl, Lisa, hoping it works out. And then confided, hey, things, kind of working out. We're in counseling right now. And Betty, the good friend she is, well, if it's not working, you might as well just give up. It's the definition of insanity to keep trying. By the way, why don't you sneak down here? See if we could have a little of our sneaky time together. I know a guard who'll look the other way for 12 minutes. You need 11, right? 11 and a half? Come on down.
Of expounding on minor things.
On December 19, 1985, you entered the Coral Reef house and tore the wrapping paper off of Christmas presents that had been purchased for the children. You shattered a mirror hanging in the hallway. You slammed the front door with such force that it punched a hole in the wall.
Lies.
Lies.
You've already admitted that you did rip the wrappers off the Christmas presents.
But all that other stuff is just lies.
Okay, so you went in and you ripped the presents off of the.
I don't really
ripped the wrapping off of the Christmas presents, but the rest of it is not true.
Lies, lies, and damn lies.
I don't really remember doing that either. I mean, I don't really remember that, but I know that those big violent things that he's claiming nobody ever did. Those things never happened. There were not holes in walls and doors off hinges and things. Nobody
Do you
did those
remember
things.
ripping the wrappers off the presents?
I'm sorry.
Quick catch up for Mandy, who's asking in the chat. Who did she send that to? Sorry, I'm at work. All of the love letters that I was reading, those were letters between her and Brad Wright. Brad Wright was the first witness in the case. He testified for the state about how he learned that Betty, who had said lots of times, I'll kill him, I'm going to kill him, said it often, but he knew that this might be the day. And he called Brian Forbes, who was a neighbor of Dan and Linda, and the two of them together went into the house to discover that Betty indeed had killed Dan and Linda. So, Brad testified fairly honestly. He was fairly forthcoming. He wasn't deceptive, but you could see there was a tinge. There was a bit of a sadness in him because he obviously cared a lot about Betty, and I think thought that he was just her shoulder to cry on, and maybe that he was even providing a role of helping her blow off some steam so that she didn't go crazy. But yeah, little did he know.
I don't.
Do you remember testifying the last time when you testified that you remember doing that?
I could have done that. I mean, that's not
So you could
something
have done a
real
lot of
violent.
these things, but you're not remembering them now.
I could have, but I don't think I did.
It is true that Mr. Broderick asked you on many occasions during that period of time to please stop vandalizing the house, that it was upsetting the children. He did ask you many times to please stop, didn't he?
Well, I don't remember him talking to me. I was mad because he had Linda in the house with the kids.
Do you recall last time testifying that you remembered that he asked you verbally many times
No,
to stop, and your response
I'm sure
was?
he did. I'm sure he did, but I don't remember him asking. I don't remember him talking to me during that time, which is part of the problem.
Didn't you say last time when you testified, when you were asked, didn't he ask you, please, many times to stop the vandalism? Didn't you say yes, but he wouldn't stop having Linda KOLKENA over?
That's probably what I said, right?
So as far as you were concerned, if he had Linda KOLKENA over, it was okay for you to do the vandalism?
That was my house, and he was lying about Linda during those times when most of these things happened. He was still lying. In December, he wasn't lying anymore, but I didn't like Linda. I was mad about all the lies and everything.
I think that's a given, and you therefore felt that you could vandalize the house, correct?
Well, it didn't no, it didn't follow like that.
Didn't he then, when you wouldn't stop after he'd asked you verbally, didn't he write you?
So that was basically when Betty was vandalizing the house, like by just taking paint and randomly painting the outside. Well, half my house. I'm just painting my half.
Letter and ask you please to stop the vandalism because of what it was doing to the children?
I don't know, maybe.
May I have marked, Your Honor, as People's Exhibit 75?
76.
A letter dated November the 4th, 1985.
So marked.
If you could read the last paragraph on the first page to yourself, please, to see if that refreshes your recollection about whether or not he'd asked you on many occasions to stop.
Just while they're at a quiet spot, I'll remind people that Fridays is my regular streaming day. If you're new to Dan D. Drew Crime, I usually stream in the mornings and the evenings on Friday.
Now, what's the question?
Does that refresh your recollection?
I'm not done with it yet.
Excuse me, Mrs. Broderick, I asked you to read the last paragraph.
I'm not done with it yet. Like, she's so controlling. This is one of my favorite interplays throughout this part of the questioning. It was every time Carrie Wells would give her something to refresh her memory, Betty would kind of take it and use it for personal reading time, use it to read the whole thing and then give a summary, like, this is the context for this document. And Carrie Wells says, give it to me, just give it back. She's getting more and more upset.
To see if that refreshes your recollection about whether or not he had asked you on many occasions to please stop the vandalism because of what it was doing to the children.
It doesn't say that there.
I'm asking you if that refreshes your recollection at all about whether or not he asked you that. It's yes or no.
That doesn't say anything like that. You must be in the wrong paragraph or something.
I certainly don't mind if you come over to pick up the kids or some of your possessions.
Sustained.
The children?
Sustained, just.
Did he not? Does this, I guess you haven't answered my question yet. Does it refresh your recollection at all about whether or not he asked you to stop the animals?
It refreshes my recollection about a lot of things. About threats.
Ma'am, can you please?
Mrs. Broderick, just answer her question, yes or no. The answer is no, that's fine.
No.
Does he not ask you to please keep the animosity to a minimum? That you're making it very difficult?
Is that in the last paragraph that you asked me? No, it's not, is it? No, it's not. Please say that it's not, right? You're wrong.
I would really like to keep the stress and animosity to a minimum.
Well, she's asked a legitimate question, Ms. Wells. I don't know if it's in the last paragraph or not. She's saying it's not.
Okay. Does it say in the last paragraph I would really like to keep the stress and animosity to a minimum, but you are making that very difficult.
Yes, but it doesn't say anything about the children.
May I have another letter marked, Your Honor, as People's Exhibit 77, dated July 21st, 1986.
So marked.
Giving this letter a couple of seconds to see if it's interesting. If not, we're going to skip ahead a little further into this cross.
Why don't you read this one-page letter, Mrs. Broderick, and see if that refreshes your recollection about whether or not he requested that you stop the vandalism or the bad mouthing because of what it was doing to the children.
Yeah, Betty can't take a piece of evidence and just answer the yes or no. It's always going to be read, read, read. Okay, hold on. Let me tell you what I think of this. And you can see Carrie just sitting there, arms crossed. She's already prepared. She's not going to like it.
What's the question? Does that refresh your recollection about whether or not he had made requests to you to please stop bad-mouthing him, saying, putting the kids in the middle of the divorce?
This is after the bifurcation. He says that. It's kind of pathetic, but yes.
Bad-mouthing one another to the kids, or even worse, blaming them for the divorce, is destructive. I suggest that each of us encourage the kids to love and respect the other.
Sustained.
I'm asking her.
I'm not buying it, ass in the chat. Is it just me, or is Betty not particularly attractive? And, you know, beauty is subjective, right? Everyone's going to have different standards. I think, given the fact that this is the 90s, she's 40 years old. I think she's quite attractive. I think that if I was set up on a blind date and, you know, Betty was sitting there across, I would be mildly surprised or pleasantly surprised. Like, okay, looks like a nice woman, keeps herself clean. She's, you know, got a nice hairstyle, nice, you know, outfit put together. I think that, you know, there's nothing repulsive about Betty's look in comparison to, say, someone like Sarah, where, you know, the more you look at her, the more, like, you know, if you were in a bar and saw her sitting down at the end of the bar, eyeing you up, you'd be careful not to be making too close of eye contact. Like, and you notice everything from, like, you know, the pores in her skin to her greasy hair. And so, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and disagree on being not particularly attractive. And then that said, for context, when she was young, she was a model before she met Dan. And if you look at some of the wedding photography, you see that she's, you know, quite a beautiful young blonde woman in the mold of many popular blonde starlets of the late 60s.
I want to ask her what she thinks is so pathetic about this, Judge. She just said it was pathetic.
That he sent the children out of town for the summer, and he went in and got the forcible sole custody, no visitation, and a final divorce without any attempt.
Keeps her motor clean.
To settle any issues. And then he sends me a letter like I should be careful about what's happening to the children.
When he sent the children, bringing back up, when he sent the children to camp, of course, going to camp was something that they did every summer, right?
They weren't at camp on July 16th, 86. They were in Ohio at his parents'.
They'd gone to visit his parents, and then they went to camp. And that wasn't anything that was particularly unusual. They went to camp every summer, didn't they?
Now, Barry Adams says, but Dan, Sarah would spot you from a mile away and offer things to you a lady wouldn't do on a first date in exchange for beer and cigarettes. So you're absolutely right, and that's why I don't go to bars much anymore. That said, I am going out to a beer garden at the local fair that's in town, so wish me luck that I come home alone.
Not particularly every summer, no.
Well, they'd gone to camp for several summers in a row.
Some of them had, yes. Some of them had.
And at this time, you had been doing the vandalism, you had been using the bad words. There was a recommendation by the
Yeah, if we were grading on the bell curve for attractiveness, and Sarah is on anywhere on that bell, Betty's got to be up near the top. Then, like, I don't care where you're putting Betty on the unattractive, but if we're grading on the curve and Sarah's somewhere in that curve, then Betty she's on the mountain.
psychologist that maybe it would be helpful for these kids to get them out of town for a while.
That's a great point too. Kitten Pusher says, when Betty laughed during the trial, the tapping noise, her face lit up. I love how she looked. Let's see if I can find that in the background while we're watching this, because that was a great,
all of the
fun
animosity
moment.
that you were expressing. Isn't that true?
I wouldn't know that.
I'm going to object as soon as that's not happening.
Stand.
You didn't have any discussions at all with Mr. Broderick about whether it wouldn't be a good idea to get the kids out of the middle of this for a while.
Mr. Broderick would not discuss anything with me.
Okay?
The children told me things. The children told me that he was sending them out of town because he was going into court that was going to do something that was going to enrage your mother. So he wanted to hide them, and they didn't want to go.
We'll talk about the bifurcation in a minute. When you would not stop the vandalism or stop using the bad words, which you admitted you didn't stop, he did attempt to, well, first to serve you with a restraining order and then ultimately to serve you with an order of contempt, correct?
What year are you in, please?
1986. In January of 1986, did he not attempt to serve you with some process regarding a contempt hearing, and you called him up and told him that he better get the process server out of there or you were going to kill him, kill the kids, and burn the houses down?
I don't remember saying I was going to kill him and kill the kids. That's, again, Dan's words and Dan's letter. But I was absolutely hysterical that there were more papers coming to my front door. I had felt barraged. And in
January of 1986, how many papers had you received?
I don't know, but I was hysterical. And I said, you get the dogs away from my front door. You're crazy. Get these people away from me. I was scared to death.
Well, January of 1986, 1985.
The pigeon moment occurred during the cross-examination of Dr. Park Dietz on day 19 of our coverage. I will let this play out, but I'm going to set that up for the next.
We'll look at your own exhibits here. First of all, the first part of the year 1985, you hadn't received any papers, right?
There's nothing filed until October.
In September of in the second half of 1985, you were served with the dissolution papers.
All right. Enough of that.
You admitted that
Enough of that.
Last time.
Enough of that. Oh, boy. Okay, this is where we're going. Oh, look at that. There's the full beard, eh? Looking scruffy. 442. There's Happy Betty. We all were talking. Let's rewind a little. It's getting a little boring, right? The things that go against Sarah for that are the fact that the lawyer did bring it up as 26,000 again in the closing arguments to show, just in case you thought we were claiming that, I do recognize that it was 26 months. But moreover, when Sarah stipulated to it, that's the only amount that the judge had to balance against the legal fees and other things that she was awarding to Brian. So I think she could have awarded Brian more child support I'm losing it. To match anything that she was going to give. So this is day 19 of the marathon, and this particular video was over 8 hours long. So forgive me for any stutter and loss of ability to communicate. Head to the funny moment. Here, tearing each other's guts out. It's getting violent in there. The opinions are coming from all over, from the windows to the walls. From the window to the wall, to the sweat drips down my balls. What the hell was that? There we go. What the hell was that? I hear you knocking, but you can't come in. Tearing each other's guts out. It's getting violent in there. The opinions are coming from all over, from the windows to the walls. What the hell was that? What the hell was that? I hear you knocking, but you can't come in. I love that I paused just before it, too, to really give some prevalence, but... Okay, we're going to get ready. We're going to watch this at least 3 or 4 times, because this doesn't make any sense.
Pigeons. Rhythmless pigeons.
Oh, so yeah. Even when I'm not providing the pet breaks, the pigeons come in and give everyone a little... It's getting a little boring, right? Bump, 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 bump. It sounded like a beat. Like you could really... And this is where Dr. Park Dietz, again, expert at everything. So he kind of shit on the timing. He's like, well, it's a pigeon with no rhythm. So I make a comment about, how I disagree. And I thought that was a pretty cool beat. Then I go look it up, and Dr. Park Dietz was a drummer as a teenager. He knows all about drumming. Knows everything. Someone with musical talent could take that and make like a... Betty loved it. 58. What the hell is going on?
Pigeons. Rhythmless pigeons.
Rhythmless
You would
pigeons.
never
See that kind of authentic moment from Sarah during the trial. This is forever. You're all giggling. You don't understand. For me, this is forever. Oh no. Okay, well, it's okay. We'll find it. It's not hard to find. 58:30. Yeah, I agree, Billie Jean. Fun at a party. If you're at a wedding with randoms at a table, she would be like, "Oh, we're lucky. We got the fun table." This is a good way to close, I think. We'll close the stream shortly after I get sick of rewatching this originally. I think I do spend a little too much time on this anyway, so we still might have 2 or 3 minutes left of me rewatching this. But you know what? In death, let's give her the grace of a moment of probably the best, Betty at her best. And if she, but for different circumstances, maybe she could have just been a narcissist that was constantly happy because she was getting everything, and she could have lived through life being a functional narcissist. But if anything, on the day after her death, let's close with her with a smile on her face. There's plenty of time to remember all the horrible things she did. If you want to get into it, watch that Betty Broderick marathon, because we don't gloss over the bad parts in that. But I think this being near the end of the stream on the day of her death, not a bad moment to close.
Rhythmless pigeons.
What do you mean rhythmless? Oh, come on, Mr. Dietz. I've been on your side all trial. That's the first one you've gotten wrong. That was rhythm. I was content to just actually let it play out from there. But listen, that's a definite rhythm. It's bump, bump, ba bump, 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 ba bump, bump. Like that's something you could do it like an EDM song to that. Okay, the last one was offbeat, but that's the kind of thing that lets you know that the next part's starting.
Pigeons.
Yeah, that's a great smile. Aw. A moment of genuine mirth.
Rhythmless pigeons.
great time for the cameraman to be on Betty there too. Wow. Even her lawyer in her houndstooth coat. You know what? I'm going to talk about the amazing timing again because I brought it up there. That little moment in the trial, that, you know, very serendipitous that the cameraman happened to be focused on Betty at a moment where you got that. Because could you imagine if the cameraman happened to be, you know, just pointed at the judge doing one of these in the chair and we missed that moment? Like, so just fortuitous that that was able to be captured in the first place. But then there's so many little moments like that where the stream and the Dandy true crime community, what perfect timing for her to end her sentence in prison a week and a half after the marathon, when we're all, you know, still it's fresh in our minds. We can enjoy each other's company in a chat here, remembering both the trial from 35 years ago, like it was yesterday or last week. But, you know, remembering the full context of her actions, for good, for bad, and for a connection with the children, and how bitterly divided they were over their own mother, and how reflective of it is over some of the division in people who are following the case and some of the emotions. So I think that I think there was a reason why Betty's coverage came up. Another big thanks to Winter Lake for asking the original question that got me interested in following Betty's case as a comparison to the Sarah Boone story. Yeah, just a lot of things really lined up to make this the perfect case to be covering. And I just want to extend a big welcome to everyone new that's watching, and maybe watching for the first time because of the news in this case. I hope you check out the catalog. There's lots of, the playlist is organized if you want to rewatch the trial in order. There's also a few shorts that came up, and they're in the same order that they got created while we were watching the trial. So yeah, lots of very timely events. Wearing a bit of a smile. Okay. Really last time now. Really last time. Is it though? You know what? I feel like this isn't the last time. I think it's just like Judge Jackson said. For the last time, we're talking about the parenting agreement. We're talking about the move. Okay, excuse me, please, Your Honor. Sorry. I'm just trying to do my best here. And we're just going to let it play through from here. I'm not going to. I bet I do it once more. I bet I do. I interrupted it. Unless something really funny.
Pigeons.
Rhythmless pigeons. I believe those are the only diary entries that I've referred to.
And now, you talk a little bit about accepting of responsibility. Now, does that mean acceptance of some responsibility? Does that mean that a person has to say, I was just totally wrong with no reason whatsoever?
Okay.
Or am I making any sense?
Oh, sometimes.
Let me give you an example.
Sometimes. Okay, no, I thought that was going to be, I was like, no way those two moments were right after each other. That's just a reference to another great moment in the trial from earlier. But Jack Gurley said those exact words to Park Dietz, and Park Dietz responded deadpan. Sometimes you make sense to me. There's a lot of times you don't. And the courtroom erupted because Early had been asking many nonsensical questions. So if you're going to rewatch the trial, we'll close up on those notes. If you're rewatching the trial, some don't miss episodes are, don't miss the opening statements. The opening statements really lay it out. They helped form my opinion because I went in a lot more sympathetic to Betty than I was after hearing the opening arguments. I was willing to come around as the defense case was presented, but so much of it was Betty litigating issues that were mostly unrelated to the murders. Maybe, spoke to state of mind, but in my opinion, most of the testimony Betty presented as a witness was her getting from second degree down to manslaughter. That seemed to be the crux of those days of testimony. And I don't think they did a whole lot in that regard as far as that goes. That said, it's compelling testimony, so I'd watch that too. But if you're rewatching and you kind of want to skip around, watch the opening statements 100%. Watch Betty's testimony. You're not going to miss that. Dr. Park Dietz is amazing, and I'm going to do a separate Friday night ramble just covering Dr. Park Dietz and trials since this one, because he's still active. Quite a bit older now, 35 years on this age, but an immaculate resume and experience. So there should be a wealth of trial coverage that we're able to pick from to do a special show for that. We'll be doing Friday morning rewatches of the Sarah Boone trial. So if you enjoy the trial coverage, if you're new because of the Betty Broderick case and don't know the Sarah Boone case, you're going to have a lot of fun in the chats. There's some very knowledgeable Sarah Boone fans in this channel space. There's a lot of inside jokes. Don't feel bad if you don't get it. Just ask what it is, and there'll be about 12 of us that are thrilled to explain why such and such is funny. That's the plan on the mornings. Oh, and I wanted to talk about, so yesterday I closed down the chat early to let people go to Hear Me Out chat, because I think Kitten Pusher had mentioned that he was streaming, and I know he gets, a few hundred people into his streams, and there's a lot of people that watch my streams that I know like his. So I was going to go for another half hour or so, but I felt like, you know what, there's no need to extend it. Let's just shut it down early. Let the people I know would enjoy both of our streams have a chance to go. And said, hey, say hi to Hear Me Out when you get in there. And my reasoning for that was, I remember being in a chat of Suma's where it was the same thing. I think Suma had 50 or 60 people, so, like double what I had. But SKR went live suddenly, and everyone was like, SKR's live. And Suma said, you know what? Let's just shut down the chat. Let's go over there. Everyone, give a hi from Suma. And everyone jumped in and, hi from Suma, and SKR. Wow. He gave a special message, seemed like really, heartfelt, like, oh, that's great. Well, thank you for reaching out. Kind of gave a thank you to all the fans who came over. It was a really nice moment. So I thought that was going to happen last night. And when I finally clicked over, it seemed like Hear Me Out was more concerned, like, well, why are you saying hi in my chat if you're watching Dan D? No, it was just a nice gesture, man. just trying to be part of the team. But anyway, if you're in, actually, you know what? That'll be a funny thing. Anytime you're in Hear Me Out chats, just say, hey, just saying hi from Dan D. I'm in Dan D's chat, just wanted to say hi. He loves inside jokes, so I'm sure that won't bother him at all. All right, if you stayed this long, you should be watching some Daniel Siobhan, because she appreciates people who stay this long. Daniel Siobhan and I are going to be working together on a cooking video. We're talking in the back scenes. We're trying to decide what recipe, how much time each of us has to put into it. But there is a Dan D and Danny C collab coming, so that will be something to look forward to. And I actually got a message from Danielle while we're doing this stream, so you have that to look forward to. I also have Sunday Fun Day that I'm going to be doing soon. That's going to be a standalone video. That one is just going to be my brother, my sister-in-law, and myself, each with a magnum of wine. We'll have some paints, we'll have some puzzles, And we're going to reenact the day to a degree just to show how ridiculous it is to think about completing a 1,000-piece puzzle when you're 3 bottles of wine to the wind. I blame it on the wine. I'm blaming it on the wine. That's what we're going to do. We will lock all suitcases away before we do that, so there won't be anyone getting injured. We won't play hide and seek. We're just going to cut off the day at the puzzles, because that's why you get the puzzles in the paint. That's why you get the puzzles in the paint. Let us know what is supposed to happen with Danny. Okay. You will know. So what I think will happen, Deborah Rockhill is already interested in the cooking challenge. There's a couple of ways that I've proposed to Danny, and I'm going to see what she comes back with. But one is we could each do our own videos, and she does, okay, challenge is on. And, maybe it's steak and potatoes, because steak and potatoes is, well known from the George case. So she could do a real straight up video of just, this is the steak, this is the seasoning, this is how you do it. She could do a parody video, however she wants to go, finish it with challenge on, and then I would have to respond. A way I think would be kind of fun is to take a show like Nailed It. And so with the Betty trial, I'm thinking like the Boston cream pie, not a, super easy thing to make your first time. So set an impossible deadline, like just long enough to do it, but not really long enough to learn it for the first time. So maybe we have 6 hours for Boston cream pie, Nailed It. We'll have a photo that we're trying to replicate. And then, she could have the little ones in her house film her as she's trying to make the recipe in time, and they're shouting out how much time is left. I'll have Mom of Lola recording my efforts, and then we'll do the big reveal and, show how badly we failed it. I think that'll be fun, self-deprecating, and something where we would just have a good time doing it, enjoy each other's company. And if you want to see something like that, check out my lemon pound cake video, which I did in honor of the Afroman trial. That was my first taste of doing a cooking video, and I realized I actually enjoy cooking, and cooking videos are kind of fun. I won't do the mushrooms one. No, that's the beef Wellington out of Australia woman. I'm not buying it. Says don't do mushrooms. That said, I don't mind mushrooms, medicinal mushrooms or otherwise, but you've got to be careful. You definitely don't want to be doing death cap mushrooms on a beef welly. LZB thought it was a nice gesture, sending people over to the chat. Yeah, I think it may have been misinterpreted, but it's funnier that way almost. So I like the idea of them wondering, like, what is the purpose of this? Just the gears grinding. Even a pizza? Yeah, pizza would be good. There's a few different ways we can go. So that's the upcoming content. Also, I'm working on a video based off of last night's live. I just want to do a simplified, Sarah Boone's appeal simplified for a non-lawyer. I got some good feedback from the people in the chat, so I've got lots of stuff to keep me busy in between. I felt like it was a bit of a lag from going to every day of the Betty marathon to having days off, but also it's kind of revitalized me creatively. So it should be on full screen when I'm finishing chat. Here I am in the top window. I feel a little creatively energized. Feel goofy doing my mustache. This will probably be shaved by the next episode. But yeah, the time off in between the marathon and now was exactly when I needed to recharge my juices. I think doing 2 shows on Friday works really well with my schedule. It lets me do a couple of shorts if that's, what comes into my head during the week. And if I don't have any shorts to do, I'm working on longer videos. So know that the long videos are coming. Trying to shoot for like 30 to 40 minute long videos. You could watch you order DoorDash. I don't think we have a DoorDash out here. Oh no, that's not true. I think it's Skip. Whatever it is, I see them at the McDonald's. Judy girl, you are late, but not late like the late Betty Broderick. Betty Broderick, at 78 years old, has died in custody of the California Correctional Institute. She'd taken a fall, had broken a rib, and due to complications, it's considered a natural causes death, but dead at 78 years old nonetheless. Judy Girl just joining the stream late, getting caught up on the breaking news. Switch one last time. And maybe the final close I will read. No, I don't want a reminder. I will read the same way I opened the show with the news update. And yeah, this will be how we close the show as well. So thank you for joining us. And we go live to Dan D reporting in the field. Today we mark the closing chapter of one of the most polarizing criminal cases in California history. Betty Broderick, the former socialite who became a household name after the 1989 double homicide of her ex-husband and his new wife, died in prison May 8th, 2026. 78 years old. Found dead of natural causes, Broderick spent her final 34 years behind bars at the California Institution for Women. While many remember her as a cold-blooded killer, her story remains a haunting symbol of a marriage gone wrong that forever changed how the public views the psychological toll of high-conflict divorce. The case that gripped the nation, and more recently the viewers of Dan D True Crime, began in the early morning hours of November 5th, 1989, when Betty used a stolen key to enter the home of her ex-husband and his new wife. She fired 5 shots into the sleeping couple's bedroom, killing them both. After a high-profile first trial ended in a hung jury, a second jury in 1991 rejected her claims of psychological abuse, instead convicting her on 2 counts of second-degree murder. During her 3 decades behind bars at the California Institution for Women, Broderick became a polarizing symbol of divorce reform and the scorned woman narrative. Supporters saw her as a victim of a legal system that failed to protect spouses who sacrificed careers for their partner's professional rise. In the decades since her conviction, family law has seen significant evolution, with modern courts now placing greater emphasis on recognizing non-monetary contributions and the impacts of financial and emotional coercion. Betty Broderick is survived by 4 children who remained bitterly divided on her incarceration. Betty Broderick, dead at the age of 7. Thank you for watching Dan D True Crime. A special shout out to all the members of chat, all the new members who joined today, all the new subscribers who are helping bring Dan D True Crime closer to that 1,000 subscriber goal. I hope you have a wonderful Saturday. I hope you are fine, because if you're fine and I'm Dan D, together we're fine and dandy. This has been a Fine and Dandy live stream. This is the end of this Fine and Dandy live stream. In 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. The chat will stay open.